Warning: the following review contains a lot of ranting from Linkara concerning the 2011 DC reboot. If you enjoy said reboot, Linkara respects your opinion. However, he dislikes the reboot and wishes to express his displeasure. If that upsets you, you may want to skip the next few weeks' worth of episodes. Still, I would not worry. I'm sure Linkara will be fair and balanced about it. The new 52 sucks ass and I frickin' hate it! Roll the theme song!
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a party hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazon and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. It's finally time for me to review a comic from the DC relaunch of 2011, or the New 52 as it is called, despite the fact that the number of comics being published at any given time in the company varies, so it's not really 52, and it is no longer new. Don't you just love it when a company is unable to count? Some of you may be surprised that this is the first comic I'm looking at for the reboot instead of Red Hood and the Outlaws, which I have complained about more than once, to the point where many said the book got better in later issues and I should give it another chance. I took them up on it and read up to issue 8 or 9. It did not, in fact, get better. In fact, I felt it was getting worse with every successive issue. I don't feel I'm ready yet to tackle that one, especially since every comic reviewer out there has already deconstructed Red Hood and the Outlaws and pointed out how sucky it is. And really, my biggest contribution has been pointing out how stupid Roy Harper's trucker hat looks. But because this year we've taken several looks at the Teen Titans, particularly their entire history up until the early 2000s, analyzing a specific crossover storyline in this book probably helps highlight the major issues with the current book and the reboot as a whole. And of course, I know there are people out there who do enjoy the New 52, and there are also people out there who want to know if I hate everything about it, or if there are books I can recommend from it. Well, the good news is that I do enjoy several series in it, and here are some of them. Demon Knights, Batwing, Justice League International, World's Finest, Earth 2, Batgirl, Batman by Scott Snyder, Nightwing, All-Star Western, The Green Lantern books, and Deadpool. And before anyone asks, I have no opinion regarding Trinity War because I'm not reading Trinity War. All it did when I first heard about it was raise my hopes that the old universe might return, and instead it's just a crossover of all the Justice League books that I didn't like to begin with. Whoopee! Speaking of crossovers, that brings us to the comic we'll be looking at for the next 4 weeks, The Culling. And this is our first problem with the storyline, which is subsequently a complaint I have with the reboot. The crossovers. When this story was released, the books hadn't even been out for a year yet, and they were already doing a crossover. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You need to have a status quo before you can shake it up. And it's not like the story of this crossover was so complex that you needed it to be a crossover. At best, it's a Hunger Games ripoff. No, I don't care if Battle Royale came first. Hunger Games was what was popular, so they were ripping off that. This is still a problem with these books. If you want to attract new readers to comics, making long crossover events that interrupt other storylines is not the way to do it. You can't expect new readers to jump on the crossover bandwagon right away. Give it a year or two. Let the readers get adjusted to the setting and these characters. Then you can do your big crossover event where most of the characters aren't actually involved in most of the action, but they get a temporary sales boost. Sorry. We had a point here, didn't we? Oh. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm a bit opinionated about the state of affairs of my favorite company and my favorite team. I know, a comic fan on the internet who's opinionated. A shocking development, to be sure. Let's talk backstory now, though, to get you primed for this four-parter. You know all that history of the Teen Titans I spent like 2.5 hours yapping about? You can throw it all away. Has nothing to do with this comic. There were no Teen Titans before this group, except for when it was first printed, and there totally were. You know how some businesses have, like, a gift shop in the lobby? DC has a retcon shop. Buy one, get one free on Wednesdays. The problem is that the retcons are sometimes spilling into each other, and you don't know which is which. Here's the basic premise. Red Robin, aka Tim Drake, is hunting after a secret organization called Nowhere, because, as I've stated, secret organizations like their dopey acronyms to sound mysterious when it just makes them look like dorks. Nowhere is hunting down teenage metahumans for some reason and kidnapping them. Robin decides to take them down and recruits a bunch of other teenagers to fight them, including Cassie Sandsmark, who has mystical armor that imbues her with super strength and flight and is called Wonder Girl. Nowhere also has a young clone of Superman named, well, Superboy, that is unleashed to take on Robin, but he instead decides to join up with him. Other members include Kid Flash, a teenager from the future with super speed, Solstice, a teenage girl from India who in the revised continuity can shoot out blasts of light, but thanks to Nowhere now has the appearance of someone encased in black smoke with cracks of light showing through. She's actually a fairly new character from the last few years, and when they introduced her, she wore bright clothing and had like a golden radiance, you know, that kind of thing. Gotta love how the reboot completely missed the damn point and made her as black and dark as possible. Next up is Bunker, a gay Latino teenager with the ability to create limited purple energy constructs. He's actually one of the more optimistic members of the group, despite having absolutely no reason to be happy in this book. And finally, there's Skitter. And that's enough about Skitter, because she disappeared from the book during the storyline and has not been seen since. One of the positives I'll give to this team is that it's a very diverse group with unique powers, ethnicities, and backgrounds. The downside of that is that the general color scheme of this team is just blah. Red, yellow, black, and purple. Rinse and repeat. They all just start blending into each other. Oh, and by the way, I know this cover looks like they're all fighting during the daytime, but don't get your hopes up. It seems one of the many victims of the New 52 was actually the friggin' sun. I went back and checked the first 10 issues of this run again. Scenes outside take place either at night or at sunset. You might be able to argue a few spots, but the sky still looks pretty orange or dark in those places. The only time I've seen normal light is on some mysterious island they end up on after this storyline. An island that's apparently shaped like a question mark and doesn't make any sense in the eyes of the Titans. So as far as they know, sunlight is as alien and mysterious to them as it is to the creative team of this book. Okay, so right before this crossover, the Titans broke into Nowhere's headquarters to free Superboy, but were captured by this asshole named Harvest and his cronies Leash and Omen. Yeah, because that's what we wanted, to turn a character previously a hero into a villain. And we're put into stupid glowing outfits that make it even harder to tell the characters apart, probably because they thought Tron Legacy had the best outfits ever. And while this episode may end up going a bit long, trust me, it's not because of stuff that actually happens in this thing. Let's dig into Titans Annual number 1, and the beginning of the culling. I know that I normally don't review the covers, but well, the cover for Titans Annual number 1 is the same as the cover for the trade, so might as well go ahead. The cover is meh. The Titans in their stupid black and glowing color Tron outfits are fighting against members of the Legion of Superheroes in their classic Tron-inspired outfits. It's like some kind of cosplayer war. Oh yeah, and they don't actually state on the cover that the culling is a crossover with the book Legion Lost. If you want me to give backstory there on Legion Lost and the Legion of Superheroes in general, well, sorry, but I know very little about them in this book. The point is, superheroes from the 30th century in present time looking for someone who went back in time, I think. Not that it matters, as you'll see. Also, I just noticed that Superboy's head is on fire. Or maybe there's just a sparkler glued to his head. We open with Robin laying on the ground with someone's foot on his chest, threatening to murder him if he even tries to blink. A rare glimpse into the writers' meeting when the higher-ups said that they were doing this reboot.
You've got a sense of humor. That'll do nothing for you here in the colony. Goodwill and joy are the enemies of superheroes. Haven't you seen Man of Steel?
Warning, if you enjoyed Man of Steel, you are entitled to that opinion. However, Linkara felt it was either that or yet another joke about how he doesn't like the reboot. Take your pick.
My name is Artemis.
And those of you familiar with the Young Justice cartoon are probably quite a bit happy about that, since Artemis was a new character invented for that show, and this is her first appearance in the DC universe. And that's a great thing. Having the comics and the TV shows synchronized like that is actually a good thing. It means it's easier to appeal to fans if they want to check out the comics themselves. Sure, it's irritating when there's a costume change just for that, but if you want to get new readers, this is a perfect way to do it. Fans of both Young Justice and Artemis, prepare to be disappointed. And pissed off.
The iceberg there is called lightning.
Iceberg? Is she calling her that because she's not smiling? Nobody in this scene has smiled so far. Or is it because she has blue hair? By that logic, I should call half of all anime characters Iceberg.
And her brother is named Thunder.
Yep, reinventions of the minor Titan supporting characters Thunder and Lightning. And what do they have to say?
Stop telling him everything! He wears the colors of Harvest! We would be foolish to trust him!
Yeah, and I mean, your outfit is completely different from his because you're both wearing the same damn outfit. What the hell? The only real difference I can spot, aside from the pop-o-matics on your arms and chest, are the giant visible zippers around your crotches. Why the hell was that necessary? Nobody else has those! Robin frees himself from Artemis and grabs her in a way to make it clear that he could kill her anytime he wanted and that they're not their enemies. Also, just take a moment to enjoy the surroundings, everyone. I hope you like the color red because that's what you're gonna be seeing throughout this crossover. Although personally, I can't really tell the difference. When I have to read stuff like Marvel or anything by Frank Miller or Rob Liefeld, I see red for weeks at a time. I don't even know how to describe this place. It is simultaneously over-detailed and yet not detailed enough. I see, like, floating islands, kind of like Avatar, except they're on jets or something. Some kind of mountain range, a few people standing on some rocks, and in the distance, everything's glowing. It's just a mess. Artemis says that someone with his skills will be useful when the culling begins. Robin naturally inquires what the hell that is.
When Harvest feels the time is right, he pits us all against each other in a battle royal.
Now, before anyone once again wants to point out the Battle Royale connection, I would just mention that the term Battle Royal actually dates back to the time of the Romans and is not just the realm of that one franchise. And now that we're over the calm bit, we can start yelling about the fact that, well, that's the plot of the 4 issues. It's a 4-issue fight scene. And I hate to break it to you, but they can't make it interesting enough for 1 issue, let alone 4! And by the way, we're only on the 4th page, and already this entire premise falls apart.
The winners become his faithful ravagers. The losers become dead.
Harvest set up the Nowhere organization, or possibly supplanted it, I can't remember, but I'm sure we'll find out in the following issues, to grab hundreds of metahuman teenagers and force them to fight each other to the death to join his super awesome army of assholes. As we progress through this crossover, we will point out all the ways this premise is stupid, starting with why the hell anyone who wins would want to join up with this jackass. The guy kidnapped you, stuck you in a place where you had to fight and kill to stay alive, and makes you wear stupid clothes sometimes, and then your prize is to be his personal lapdog? Oh, and here's a bit of a kicker. He's kidnapping ordinary people, too. Artemis explains that she was pre-med before she was taken, and she has no powers. Others are infected with some kind of virus that transforms them into metahumans, or at least some kind of mutation? Why? You have actual people with superpowers, so why are you grabbing normal, untrained teenagers? Ugh. They come across a jerk named Fist Point, yeah, I've got a fist for you, who says they need to pay Fist Point's toll. A toll? What the hell good is money around here? Why would any of you still have any money on you? And if it's for food or something, why would they carry all of that around with them? Robin points out the obvious, that they should all be uniting to escape and take on Harvest, but Punch Knob says he doesn't want to because I'm in my element here. Dude has cybernetic parts and a single robot eye. What element is that exactly? Starving in a squalid, continuously red underground prison? Artemis is having none of this and knocks the guy on his ass, threatening to kill him if he doesn't knock his stupidity off. Robin wonders how the hell they can live like this. One day at a time. Someday, even you will put tribal war paint on your face for absolutely no reason. In fact, where the hell did I even get war paint? They find the other Titans, including Superboy, who's apparently having issues because of stuff that was going on in his solo book when he first arrived in the colony. Solstice is trying to convince him to join up with the Titans so they can all work together to get out of here. Open your heart, Superboy. Even for all your power, tamped down as it is by the technology that runs through this place, you will not survive this night if you try to fight alone. So, okay, Superboy's powers are being restricted? How? Because of all the red? Is it acting like red sunlight? Or is it the suit that's doing that? Because if the suits are restricting their powers, they'd actually have a reason for existing. Except that just raises a whole crap ton of questions! For starters, why does nobody else aside from Thunder and Lightning have them? We see other people who clearly have powers, but no suits. Why don't the Titans try to remove them? If Harvest can control their powers, why go through the trouble of the culling at all? If they get uppity, just restrict their powers and movement or whatever. If the idea of the culling is to make the strongest of them become his agents, why bother restricting their powers? Is it to force them to think strategically without their powers? But then why does Robin have one of these suits when he doesn't have any powers, and you actually went out of your way to recreate his flight wings, giving him an advantage over others? Does Harvest just have some kind of fetish for these outfits? Is that why he put the teenagers in them?
It just raises too many questions.
To be fair, at the end of the comic, there is actually behind-the-scenes information that says that there are cybernetic implants and restraining devices that dampen powers, except since we have no idea who the hell half of these people are, we wouldn't be able to tell that anyway. And the bigger sin here is that I had to read supplementary material to get that information. If it was told in the pages of Legion Lost or Superboy, fine, I can get that. But the extras are meant to be just that. Extra! I shouldn't need to read those to learn about details like that! And even then, it doesn't answer any of my questions about the damn Tron clothes, just that some of the inhabitants of the colony are wearing nowhere provided clothing. Yeah, because the collection of people in dirty rags really shows how much Harvest cares about clothing them. And again, if these clothes are restricting their powers, take them off! Thunder and Lightning have huge-ass zippers on their outfits. Or hell, just cut the damn things so you still have modesty, but they won't have whatever is keeping them from restricting your powers. Every level of this story makes less sense the more you think about it. And I would remind you that we have barely begun this story. Anyway, Robin says that he has a plan. Spoilers, if he did, we never see it. Some of the Titans are distrustful of each other after what's happened in previous issues, not that it will really get developed outside of some narration captions, and they otherwise act like they work together anyway for the rest of the story. We cut over to another part of the colony where the Legion Lost is actually being productive and attempting to escape. They find a force field that they can't penetrate. Trapped within an ever-changing environment. Could it change to something a little more colorful at least? Although I'm actually really surprised that this panel lets us see anything aside from red. The behind-the-scenes state that the teens who have been here for months, yeah, that'll encourage them to join your army, Harvest, are supposed to be experiencing a representation of hell. Fire, lava, redness, caves, etc. That makes even less sense as we learn Harvest's motivations and abilities, but whatever. Chameleon Girl, a shapeshifter, makes an attempt to escape through the lava. Oh, and by the by, kids, might want to take a step back from the lava, since real lava is not like Super Mario Brothers, and standing that close should burn your skin off and be impossible to breathe. But she later returns, presumably without success, though she doesn't state it. They realize that whatever is keeping them there is using 31st century technology to keep them imprisoned. They also give some exposition about the hypertaxis virus they were hunting down that was infecting people in this time period. Also something from the 31st century. Oh god, viruses from the future? This is that Andromeda Strain miniseries all over again! If it turns out that this virus is sentient, I'm tossing this comic against the wall and making a run for it! We cut to Harvest and his team of wannabes watching the Legion as they talk. No one knows the name he used before he came to call himself Harvest. For the record, though, it was Farmer Steve. He alone knows where he came from. And when. Harvest Eye Joe, where did you come from? Where did you go? Omen, who is wearing some kind of black leather dress with random belts around the hips, a high collar, fishnet top, and seems to have her eyes sewn shut with blood running down them as well as hair blonde with red tips. So basically a goth look for absolutely no reason, says that Harvest shouldn't have put the Legion into the colony without letting her ply her trade on them like she did to the Titans. She's referring to the events of issue 8, wherein she used her telepathic powers to screw with their heads and create hallucinations. Why? Well, it seems like it was to force Robin mentally into a place where he'd be willing to kill someone. And it seemed to succeed. But then that just raises a whole new questions, like if he has someone who can screw around with their heads like this, why did they reveal that they had that ability? And why are they going through all this horse hockey and not just use mental powers to make them do your bidding without them knowing? Dear Lord, I used the "it just raises too many questions" clip far too early because this comic keeps digging up plot holes. Harvest says that he wants the Legion under his command since they're already a trained paramilitary force, and the Titans are, well, powerful or something, I don't know. By the by, this is also an annual split into chapters for no reasons at all. So we're on Chapter 3, The Battle, aka the entire rest of the crossover. Although it should be noted that the trade takes out those bits, so I don't even know what the point is then. Harvest sends Leash to the Titans. Leash's outfit includes a bandana on his head with random tattered rags moving around like Spider-Man's webbing, shoulder pads, a spiked belt, and some kind of glowing purple ribcage. I imagine the glowing purple ribcage is actually for his light-up action when you press the button on his back. Buy his action figure now, kids! Leash releases purple tendrils that grab the Titans.
He is handpicking those of us whom Harvest wants to rest, to cull the weak from the strong.
Oh, now I get the title! The tendrils cause immense pain in the Titans as they're grabbed. My transport coils are as painful as they are effective. Transport coils? Your name is Leash. Call them energy leashes or something. In the plus column, all that agony helps you focus on the battle ahead. It's been my experience that pain doesn't really help you focus on anything except, oh god, it hurts. The Titans, along with Lightning for some reason, are all taken, with the exception of Skitter, who was offered a hand by someone off screen and is never seen again. If there's any plan to use her in future stories, there's still no sign of it. Leash releases the Titans over the Legion, and the two groups instantly decide to fight each other, despite no evidence of either being evil, and the Titans already knowing about how the teenagers are supposed to fight each other to the death.
Ravagers? Legion? Why is it that metahumans insist on naming themselves?
Oh yeah, Cassie in this incarnation has this problem with being called Wonder Girl. I don't get it. It's not funny, it doesn't say anything about her character, it's just frustrating, because it just means that every time someone calls her Wonder Girl, she needs to whine about how she doesn't want people calling her that. Or it makes the others look like assholes because they don't just call her by name. A Legion member named Timberwolf steps up and states that they're from the 31st century, but Cassie just backhands him.
Save it for the therapist, furball!
Furball? He's got a 5 o'clock shadow. That's the extent of his hairiness as far as I can tell.
With any luck, when you wake up, you won't even remember you thought you were some sort of time-traveling mountain lion.
Ugh, Cassie... Wolves aren't lions! The fight continues, and Chameleon Girl transforms into some kind of giant dinosaur thing. Why do I keep running into crappy comics lately with dinosaurs in them? And chomps down on Bunker. What Chameleon Girl could not have known is that Miguel Jose Barragan has not been Bunker for very long. He is new to this. And frankly, he's not impressing me so far. So he panics, with surprising results. Said results are him expelling Chameleon Girl away with his powers. That's not particularly surprising, actually. And thank you for that completely unnecessary narration. The writer, Scott Lobdell, is a man who's still very much operating out of the 90s. Instead of letting the characters talk or have their own internal narration that expresses their thoughts or even letting the artwork handle it, the narrator has to say the character development for us. It's stuff like, they know what they mean, blah 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 blah, exposition about what they mean. Or what we just saw, which was to tell us how he's new and that he panicked. It's like he doesn't trust the artist to tell the story. Mind you, the story so far is people hitting each other, but I'm not sure why that's difficult to convey with pictures. Anyway, after a few more pages of fighting, they realize they're not enemies, and we go back to Harvest's whatever the hell this is. The narration box says it's the Chamber of Harvest, but what does that mean? Look at the background here. Who was the decorator of this place? Yeah, I want my office to be painted black, but with like circuitry painted in blue in random patterns on the walls. Omen points out that neither group is going to kill the other, and Grinny McRobotface here says that they won't until the culling begins. Why? Why would the Titans and the Legion suddenly decide to kill each other when the culling begins? Because you say they will? By the by, Harvest says that the Grinny guy is named Warblade. This comic is so 90s, and yet this came out in 2012! Anyway, here's more of Harvest's brilliant plan.
This was only about wearing the two teams down.
Wearing them down? Why? Why wouldn't you want them at their best when they're fighting each other to see who was truly best to join your stupid evil organization? Hell, they've already got the advantage of being better trained and better fed and rested than the people who have been in the colony for months. Speaking of, Harvest sure likes taking his sweet-ass time, doesn't he? I also just realized that Leash in a lot of these panels looks very much like the Joker. Pale skin, purple clothes, bright red lips. Why? Harvest orders Leash to actually begin the culling, and he goes into the colony and starts leashing up people, and we discover how it is that he gets them to fight. Leash has the power to send people into a blind fury. And naturally, this once again makes no sense. Why would you want them uncontrolled when they're fighting? Or do you expect to just make your agents pissed off when they do their missions and smash up whatever you want them to grab? Oh, and more former Titans join the fun. We have a Terra and a Beast Boy. Beast Boy is red now. Why? Because green would be too different a color. It's because it's connected to that mythical element, the life web, that was explored in Animal Man and Swamp Thing, that's also called the Red, or whatever. Considering Beast Boy's origin, don't know if it's still the same origin for that matter, that makes absolutely no sense. Don't know what Terra's deal is either. On top of which, I'm not exactly sure why they included the former Titans. The point of the reboot was supposed to allow new readers to jump on, but these names are only significant to people who have actually read the comics before, and they're just pissed off because you changed things that you didn't need to change. And so, dozens of teenagers suddenly teleport over the Titans and the Legion with purple glowing eyes. Garfield Logan is not the most centered person on his best days, but he's also not a snarling beast. Until today! He's also not a natural redhead either. What the hell's your point? But yeah, he transforms into some kind of dinosaur lizard thing, and they start fighting.
Gar, please, don't make me kill you!
Did everyone in this comic take stupid pills before this began? You don't have to kill him! Just give him enough of a shock to stun him! In fact, you could probably do that for everyone! A nice little shock to the system might get people to calm the hell down and not force everyone to fight! The Legion sees another teen who's infected with the T-virus or whatever and speculate about whether Harvest is responsible for their entire reason being there. Which Harvest already earlier revealed to us he was, so yeah, that's unnecessary dialogue right there. Speaking of unnecessary, we have more pretentious narration captions. So many children here. Red Robin scarcely knows where to start. And there's a phrase that could mean something horrible in a different context. He is grateful that despite the nudge from Leash, Artemis seems determined not to harm anyone. If we tell you how characters are feeling and acting, then we don't have to make any effort to show it happening. And then Punch Spike or whatever the hell his name was goes and kills Artemis. Yeah, not kidding here. They introduced a popular character from the Young Justice TV series in this book, and then killed her off in the same issue. Are you beginning to see why I think the inmates are running the asylum right now at DC? First blood has been spilled. We could really use some paper towels to clean it up. Red Robin is determined to make it the last. He wants to rage against the teenager beneath his boot. But Tim Drake knows ultimately that Fist Point is not responsible. Considering how much of an asshole the guy was beforehand, I think the jury's still out about if it was his fault or not. Harvest made a killer out of this young man, and this young woman paid the price. But she forgot to include the shipping.
Harvest, I know you can hear me, you sick sadistic slime! I'm coming for you! We all are! I'm sorry. I'm sorry, woman I've only known for 5 minutes. And now, Chapter 5.
Chapter 5. The Net Titans.
She wasn't any older than I am. That's why she needs to be avenged.
If she had been like 30, I wouldn't have cared.
No, if we make this about revenge, we lose focus.
Not 10 seconds ago, you were cradling her body in your arms and screaming that you were coming for Harvest. Make up your mind, dude. Bunker notices that Skitter isn't with them, but enough worrying about her. Time for epic 2-page spread posing. I will admit, though, that does look badass. Pity it's ruined by the narration captions. And so it comes to pass that a legion of young titans work together, at least for now, against a common enemy. Unless you're a dusty old prophecy, you are not allowed to use the phrase, and so it comes to pass. So, more fighting, more narration telling us the flippin' obvious, and then over to Harvest. Not far away, the man-turned-monster named Harvest has a very unexpected reaction. He decides that he's really hungry for Chipotle. He roars with laughter at this sudden turn of events. Oh yeah, look at this asshole. This is the face of laughter right here. Standing awkwardly after you destroy your own computer equipment. The hell is he even doing? Harvest dispatches his forces to deal with the group, which is now united and are trying to figure out what to do now. So, will you tell us where you are really from? Cause none of us believes you're from the future. Among your teammates are a super speedster, a living bug woman, someone with invisible armor, a clone of Superman, and a guy who can create purple energy constructs. What is so unbelievable about being from the future? The Legion member Tirok says that it's okay, since according to their history banks, the Teen Titans aren't supposed to exist for another 40 years. Man, even in 1,000 years, reboots are still screwing around with the timeline. And so our issue ends with Harvest's forces launching their attack, and it's to be continued in Superboy number 9. Dear Lord, this comic sucks! The art is bad, the narrator tells us how characters are feeling, the colors are atrocious, and nothing about the story makes sense! Oh yeah, and they introduce a fan-favorite character, and subsequently kill her off! Well, I guess they must know what they're doing over at DC. I mean, after all, they have to know how to market and, get their comics to attract kids, teens, and other people who might want to start reading comics for the first time. Eisner Award winner Paul Pope was told by the head of DC Comics that they only publish comics for 45-year-olds. I'll see you next week with Superboy number 9. Number 3, from Teen Titans Annual number 1. In the first part of the culling, we were introduced to the New 52 version of the character Artemis, a fan-beloved character from the cartoon Young Justice. I still haven't watched it. I have the DVDs. Congrats to fans on another season coming out. However, I erroneously assumed that Artemis was an original character created for that show. No, she's actually a modification of a pre-New 52 character, a supervillain no less by the name of Tigress. Yeah, this is especially embarrassing for me because Tigress was actually a recurring villain of the Justice Society during my favorite run of their book, so I should have really done my research on this one, especially because the cartoon version of her is so beloved. That being said, this is another one of those cases where I really feel like my critique of the comic was still justified, since they're clearly banking on the readers being Young Justice fans to recognize the character. How do I know that? Well, mainly because before the New 52, Tigress was never a hero and was not a teenager. Her appearance in the culling has her as a teen hero, and not her role as a legacy character for a Golden Age supervillain. But yeah, I still made the mistake of saying she was a new character, and then DC made the mistake of killing her. A mistake so bad they retconned it in the conclusion to Scott Lobdell's Teen Titans book. Although that storyline is a tale for another day. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. We continue our look at the 4-part Teen Titans / Superboy / Legion Lost crossover, The Culling. Although to be fair, can it really count as a Superboy crossover considering he's already a member of the Titans? Let's not worry about the semantics there. Instead, let's talk for a second about the trade collection of this little crossover. Now, the problem with collecting a crossover between 2 or more different series is how you're supposed to label it. Here's the trade collection for the first volume of the New 52 Teen Titans. It says Teen Titans in bright white letters on the side to indicate the series, the title of the trade, in this case a made-up phrase because the first 7 issues of the book each had their own title, the creative team, and finally the trade number. That way, when you put it on your bookshelf, everything's arranged in a nice, easy order. But then you've got The Culling. Since it contains issues of Teen Titans, Superboy, and Legion Lost, obviously a number doesn't really qualify for it since the trade collections don't necessarily reflect the numbering for the others. But the marketing and packaging for this are just bizarre. Remember how I mentioned last time that nowhere on the cover did they mention that it was a crossover? Well, it's the same thing here. Oh sure, on the back of the trade, in the print at the bottom, they mention the crossover, but on the front it says that the culling is from the pages of Teen Titans. Collecting it as The Culling makes perfect sense, I suppose, but why not label it with the team names and then have The Culling as the subtitle? And what did they put as the subtitle instead? Rise of the Ravagers! Yeah, in the wake of the crossover, another teen book was launched based on Harvest's little minions who broke away, and it was called The Ravagers. We won't get into the Ravagers thing just yet, but I'd like to point out that DC thought that putting the Ravagers on the cover and the spine would be a better way to attract customers than the friggin' Teen Titans! Hey, how many TV shows have the Titans had or been featured in? And how many TV shows has Superboy appeared in? And hell, even members of the Legion of Superheroes, how many shows have they had or appeared in one way or another in other mediums? I don't know, maybe I just don't get it. After all, according to DC, at the mere infant age of 26, happy birthday to me, by the way, I am almost 20 years too young to be reading their comics. And yet it often feels like I'm too mature to be reading this stuff. It gets stupider from there, my friends. See, this trade collects all the issues of the crossover from the 3 books, including some of the stuff that leads into it. Makes perfect sense there. Except DC then went ahead and made the second trade paperback of Titan stories, called it The Culling, but only included their issue of the crossover and several issues afterwards. I don't own that trade, but I've heard that they do the Amazon's attack trick where they explained what happened in between issues. Hell, they don't even include the annual. They collected one part of a 4-part crossover, and anyone who's only reading from the trades is gonna be really damn confused. It's apparently the same thing in the Superboy trade, except they don't have text recaps. And one last thing about the trade is the promotional quote. A visual spectacle, according to comic book resources. Yeah, I looked it up. It's a quote taken out of context for the annual issue, which was given an average 3 out of 5 stars, and the review stated that the artwork only performed adequately, and that it was a visual spectacle because of the constant fight scenes and lack of detailed backgrounds. Further, that the artist, Brett Booth, could have used some help on it. Is that how desperate you are for positive press, DC? Taking reviewer quotes out of context in a desperate attempt to make it seem like things are going well? If you want one of those, I can give you that! When it comes to these comics, I've never seen anything quite like this before. There, I mean that in a bad way, but feel free to use that on the cover of a trade or something. Visual spectacle. The only spectacle you could get out of this is if you've never seen the color red before. Anyway, let's continue, shall we? Last time, the Teen Titans and a lost group of the Legion of Superheroes were kidnapped by a guy named Harvest to fight in his gladiatorial arena against other teenagers in a battle to the death. And the prize for winning?
A new car!
No, because that would actually be a worthwhile prize. No, the prize is you get to join his group of evil minions that you didn't want to join in the first place. The issue ended with said evil minions being unleashed upon the heroes because, well, let's face it, Harvest isn't exactly impressing us with his evil plans. So let's dig into Superboy number 9 and see what new levels of incompetence we have descended to. Well, I've already looked at one cover in this crossover, despite me reading it from a trade, so why not look at the rest? Not that it's anything impressive. Superboy fighting Warblade in the snow. Considering the last issue, I am highly dubious whether snow is actually present in this comic. I'm gonna be honest, the Superboy issue is the only one of the crossover that I didn't read when it was originally released. I cared so little about the culling that the issue came and went and I barely noticed. Not that it actually makes much of a difference to skip it, as you'll see. Oh, and Dawnstar of the Legion is on the cover too. I presume she's there because they felt that if they didn't have boobs, a Legion member on the cover, there'd be no other way of knowing this was a crossover. Almost as if they should have indicated that it was a crossover somewhere. We open with a group of Titans and Legion members staring at the reader, as if they're really surprised that you actually bought this. My name is Superboy. I'm a clone, created by an organization called Nowhere and designed to be a weapon. And you do not want to know where they put the safety on me and what I have to do to switch its position. I'm here in a place called the Crucible, several miles under Antarctica, fighting side by side with the Teen Titans and a handful of people known as the Legion. But we'll travel along, singing our song, side by side. You would think there is enough raw power here to stand against any possible threat. But then that would mean that things made sense, and we can't have that. Better that we get our asses handed to us by rejects from the 90s. Turning the page and going into the sort of 2-page spread that's the actual title page, something really shocking is before us. Something really incredible. The art looks nice! I'm serious! Just compare the spread here with the one in the annual. Despite the fact that half the heroes here are in the stupid Tron outfits, everything looks nicely bright and different and unique. The heroes are distinct and their colors don't blend into each other. It's even the same case for the villains, who all have a nice spread of colors on them, too. I didn't even realize how different and varied the villains appeared at the end of the last issue. You wanna know why? Because some idiot put a frickin' purple filter over all of them, so all the colors looked purple! It's amazing! The heroes actually stand out from the hellish landscape and look like heroes when you don't have the frickin' filters put over everything! I can't begin to tell you how much of a difference this made to my enjoyment of the comic when I could actually see things so damn clearly. You know, I read an essay recently about this. Comic artists these days seem determined to drain away all the color out of everything. Kind of like that thing in movies where they want everything to look blue and orange. The same thing is happening in comics. Building on that point I made last time about scenes either being at sunset or at night, even though logically they should be taking place in the middle of the day, and all the other colors end up washed out. This is possibly done in a failed effort to make it look more realistic. And I would remind you that comics are the medium that features whatever the hell this brown or orange guy is smoking a cigar. There are some areas where realism is not exactly necessary. Then again, anyone who thinks that the world is just orange and blue has never looked out a friggin' window and seen how many colors there are in the real world and how well you can see them. This is superheroes. They should be bright, easy to see, and visually interesting. This is a visual spectacle for me. Not this! This is painful to look at, overcomplicated, and has too much gradient light filters over everything that make it all blend together. I know I'm harping on this a lot, but you do not even know how much I started enjoying the comic more when the coloring and artwork were as nice as this. And bear in mind, this is still the stupid-ass storyline that introduced a popular character and then killed her off in the same issue. Here's another quote for you, DC, that's actually accurate in regards to the pencilers and colorists. R.B. Silva, Richard and Tanya Hori, and Hi-Fi, you are an island of tranquility in a sea of garbage. Anyway, let's get back to the actual story. They are called the Ravagers. Stop laughing! Yeah, I'll save my thoughts on the Ravagers for next time, since we're still only on the second page. They are the survivors of Nowhere's previous cullings. One night a year when a man named Harvest pits metahumans against each other, with only the strongest left alive to serve him. Except for the ones who aren't metahumans that he kidnapped just for the lols. So what does Warblade have to say about this? You kids are too clever by half. The maximum amount of cleverness allowed here is 3/16. Instead of killing each other, you teamed up and took down every other kid here to keep them from hurting each other. Pretty much the polar opposite of what Harvest intended. Yeah, that sure was clever of them. If by clever you mean damn frickin' obvious, seriously, if the culling is an annual event, are you telling me that this is the first time in years that anybody thought of that? The big dude smoking the cigar is apparently named Ridge, and I guess is British. Right rude of the lot of you. I say, old boy, how very rude of you to not murder other innocent teenagers. That's just not done. Robin says that the Ravagers are just as much victims of Harvest as the rest of them, and offers them a chance to surrender and avoid all of this, but Warblade refuses.
The only way this ends is in a pool of blood. Yours. Ravagers, on my word.
So, let me get this straight. Harvest wants the strongest and best to join his army of Ravagers by having them kill each other. This collection of heroes has managed to take out all the other metahumans without having to kill them, something that's a lot harder to do than just killing them, and as a result, he has sent in the Ravagers to kill them all. He wants to kill the people he went to great effort to kidnap and force them to demonstrate how powerful and strong they are so they can join his band of idiots. And Harvest has now ordered them dead.
I wish I had the slightest idea of what the hell I was doing.
Also, I should note that people have informed me that Warblade is actually a character from the Wildstorm imprint that was folded into the normal DC universe when the New 52 was started. Also, that he was a hero and not a villain like he is here. Just keep finding new ways to piss off your readers, DC. That'll get us to want to keep reading. Superboy, seeing that Warblade is the leader, immediately flies at him at super speed and tackles him away. Your Superboy is rather impulsive. He isn't exactly ours. Your decision to break into Nowhere's headquarters to rescue him got you idiots into this mess to begin with. Don't start trying to claim he's not yours. Robin wants to send Solstice after them, but Tirok suggests otherwise, since Dawnstar is an experienced tracker, and they'll need Solstice's firepower here. Can't argue with your strategy, Tirok, but don't give my team orders. Yeah, just like he wasn't. One of the Legion members, Tellus, creates a telepathic link so they can coordinate.
Should we link in these titans?
Not until they earn our trust. What do they need to do to earn it exactly? You're facing unknown hostile forces, and they've already proven that they don't want to kill anybody. Denying them information just makes it so that you guys will most likely step on each other's toes. I slam into Warblade with so much concussive force, our momentum carries us more than a mile away. Hey, remember how Superboy's powers are supposed to be restricted right now? Yeah, I think they did too. He dumps Warblade into the lava, hoping that the heat would deal with the metal covering him, I think. Not exactly sure what the plan is after that, since the heated metal would probably kill Warblade afterwards, unless he's a robot or something. And as we'll see, Superboy is just as committed to not killing as the others. It's not working! He may look like metal, but he's something much more durable. My god! He's made of Mylar! Back over to the teams, it's time for another example of missing the damn point. I complained back during the Titans history how Rose Wilson's character regressed when it came to Jeff Johns' Titans run, but of course there were plenty of fans who still enjoyed her character in that form, and I respect that. So, of course, in the reboot they turned her evil and made her work for Nowhere as well. Ain't that peachy? So our count right now is at least 3 different heroes in this book who have been turned evil for absolutely no reason. I could probably make another top 15 list of heroes turning villains on the reboot alone. While I enjoy the artwork, there are still some artistic failings here and there. For example, Robin seems to be flying in this first panel as Rose somehow falls towards him, doing these splits because, well, you need to get in your yoga session somehow. But then her legs are together as she's falling, and finally Robin has turned around, seemingly crashing onto the ground and holding out his arms. There's a swawk noise that I think is supposed to imply that the wings here are supposed to be blocking her sword, but it looks more like she's tapping against the tips of them and Robin is trying to catch the blade with his hands. My theory about the wings seems supported by Robin's dialogue. These wings are pure Inertron. You'll find them rather resistant to harm. Inertron is a fictional metal in the DC universe, like Promethium or the Marvel Universe's Adamantium. Really strong substance that's supposedly impenetrable. My question is simply, where the hell did Robin get that since it's supposed to be from the 30th century? Did Harvest give him those? If he did, how did Robin know he did that? And if so, why? And if those are his original flight wings and not replacements made by Harvest, why the hell isn't Batman using the stuff for his body armor instead of giving it all to Tim Drake? And our final bit in this sequential fail is Robin doing a backwards flip while kicking, which somehow knocks her away. He's apparently defying gravity while he's at it, since his wings are retracted now. I need a flowchart for this fight. Then Robin's flying towards her. Solstice tried to help you, Rose, to give you a chance to redeem yourself and move forward. Superboy is taking a stand against Nowhere. You can too!
Everybody should change.
Wildfire of the Legion dumps Ridge down in between them for no reason, while in the background, Wonder Girl fights someone else.
Focus, Red Robin. I want your full attention as I exploit this distraction.
He's distracted, so you want to take advantage of his distraction by getting his full attention? Hey, Mr. T, what do you call that?
I call it dumb. You don't go kick the snake you're trying to sneak up on.
Rose offers Robin the chance to join them, but of course he refuses, and Flash gets him out of the way of her sword.
I need you to scour every inch of the Crucible, Kid Flash, collect all the kids, and try to find Skitter.
Sure. You're welcome, by the way. You're in the middle of a life or death fight. I think the platitudes can wait, dude. Back with Superboy, he uses his tactile telekinesis abilities to bring up lava to Warblade's face, desperately trying to choke him at this point, but of course it has no effect. Though I don't know why Superboy thought it would. He was completely submerged in the lava before without consequence, and I can't even tell if he breathes through that helmet or if it even is a helmet. What did Harvest do to you to turn you into this?
You're not as special as you were led to believe. Yeah, you're a living weapon. Big deal. So is every other Ravager.
So he's a hipster supervillain. Dawnstar arrives and picks up Warblade, knocking him into some rocks while another supervillain watches nearby. And then it starts to snow. For no reason. Superboy acknowledges that it's weird that it's snowing, and end of that. The landscape is just snowy all of a sudden. Now, to be fair, in the last issue they said that the landscape was ever-changing, but we didn't see any evidence of that until now. But the problem is that this doesn't gel with what the behind-the-scenes information stated. They said that the colony was supposed to be a representation of hell, with fire and lava and red caves and crap. And yeah, I know, according to Dante's Inferno, the final circle of hell is the coldest, since it's the farthest from God's light, but why bother to have the landscape just suddenly shift now? Hell, this just makes me wonder what the hell this place is. Is it all holograms? Because I sincerely doubt you can just alter the entire landscape like that on a whim, unless it was some sort of false surrounding. Wait, why am I even complaining about this? It's not red anymore. I was actually starting to think that the color blue was a figment of my imagination. Dawnstar stays out of the way of Warblade's claws as he starts smashing at rocks. And here's once again some confusion and what the hell's going on. Does the dude have telekinetic powers? Because he smashes the rocks and then kind of swipes his arms around, and the rocks go shooting out at Dawnstar specifically. If he doesn't have those kind of powers, is he just kind of swinging his arms around and through sheer luck it's all hitting her?
Unfortunately for you, I've raised killing to an art form!
So, technically, with those claws, does that mean that you're finger painting right now? With Dawnstar down, he tries to go over and slash her throat, but Superboy punches him into another mountain. Meanwhile, Kid Flash is tackled by Timberwolf, who claims to know who Kid Flash is. He has amnesia, for those wondering. That's why there wasn't a plot hole about them not believing they were from the future, because Kid Flash is from it. They don't know that. And that he's responsible for a lot of suffering and death. Another Legion member knocks Timberwolf out and tells Kid Flash that the future is his to create and to ignore what Timberwolf said. Back with Superboy, he keeps repeatedly punching Warblade, thinking that with what he's demonstrated, he'll probably heal quickly. However, before he can continue, this random guy shows up in his own stupid nowhere jumpsuit. He apparently has stretchy powers and showed up in a previous Superboy issue. He was watching Superboy before and complains that it's Superboy's fault that he's in here.
I had a good life until you came along. My sweetums and I were in love. We were so happy.
You and your girlfriend were mass murderers. Hey now, Superboy, let's not change the subject here. Go on, Mr. Mass Murderer. Tell us how you really feel about what Superboy did to you. But before he can really continue, Warblade pops up behind him and shoves his claws through his stomach. No! Not the mass-murdering character who was only seen now for anyone who hasn't previously read the other series involved in this crossover! No! Warblade says Superboy should have killed him and that he's killed before, but Superboy just stammers that he wouldn't do it in cold blood like Warblade did.
You're not a good person, Superboy. You're not even a person.
Spoilers! The secret behind this crossover is that Superboy is actually a lawn ornament. Warblade runs at Superboy, ready to gut him, and then gets hit by a rock thrown by Dawnstar. That knocks him out. So lava, heavy collisions, repeated punches to the face, none of those faze Warblade, but you throw a single rock at him, and he just can't handle it. Okay. And over the course of 2 pages, we see the other Titans and Legion members knock out the rest of the Ravagers. Robin says he feels crappy because he feels they could have saved more teens. So far the body count is 2. One who was a mass murderer and the other, well, yeah, that one sucked. But I'd say the body count is pretty low so far, dude. Too many of them died because they chose to play by Harvest's rules. Did I turn over 2 pages at once? Where the hell are all the supposed dead people you guys are talking about? Or are all these Ravagers actually dead and you guys have been killing them off screen? Also, I noticed that the landscape is turning red again. Well, thanks for that brief respite from it anyway. Superboy says that they'll never be Harvest's pawns, and our comic ends with Harvest himself deciding to join in on the fun.
A noble sentiment, Superboy. Futile and impotent, but noble nonetheless.
I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, Harvest, but how do you expect to make them work for you? This entire exercise is pointless!
I do hope you enjoyed your momentary triumph. I wanted you all to experience a brief flare of hope, so that your eventual defeat would be all the more crushing.
Yes, I totally meant to have all of my forces get their asses kicked by you. It was completely intentional. I'm not trying to spin this or anything.
At long last, the time has come for you to experience the true power of Harvest.
I have the power to make the artwork crappy again.
None shall escape it.
This comic sucks, but it is better than last week. It's amazing how much more tolerable this crossover briefly became just by virtue of having decent artwork. Despite the sequential fails in conveying 2 people exchanging blows or trying to figure out what the hell Warblade was doing with his arms here, the fact that the color palette was so much more diverse made it a hell of a lot more enjoyable to behold. And one more comment on last week's comic. For an annual issue, something that's supposed to be a special once-a-year comic, it sure did a hell of a crappy job focusing on the Titans. It showed them as distrustful idiots, and it felt like more time was spent with Harvest, the Legion, and Artemis than it did on the people the book was supposed to be about. But then we've got Superboy's issue, and while it did move along the fight scene and stuff happening between the Legion and the Titans, the focus of the book was on Superboy himself and his thoughts and feelings from his perspective. The entire issue was still a crappy fight scene, but it was at least a more enjoyable one. Next week, we'll see if we can continue that momentum in Legion Lost number 9. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. The culling continues! Unfortunately. So I've talked about the background and the crappy packaging for the book, but let's focus on one other thing related to that packaging. The tagline, Rise of the Ravagers. The Ravagers, as you'll recall, are the name of Harvest's superpowered flunkies. They're the ones who you get to join if you win the Hunger Games. I mean the Battle Royale. I mean the most dangerous game. I mean the Roman gladiatorial arenas. I mean this stupid derivative premise that they called the culling. Spoilers, when this crossover ended, a bunch of the characters introduced here, including Thunder and Lightning, Beast Boy, Terra, and etc., they all escape along with that Ridge guy from last time and another character named Fairchild. And they get their own book called The Ravagers. Because the first thing you would do after you escaped from a bunch of murderous assholes is take on the name of the murderous assholes. Now, admittedly, I did not read that book, mainly because I wanted nothing more to do with the culling or all that crap, so I don't know if they actually called themselves The Ravagers, but I really hope they didn't. Why? Because that is possibly the dumbest name for a superhero group ever. For that matter, it's a pretty stupid name for a villain group, too. I mean, if they were really unrepentant villains, knew they were evil and just didn't care, yeah, I could accept that. But consider that the Ravagers in the title seems to refer to the heroes of the group. And more spoilers, Harvest thinks he's actually doing a good thing with the culling, Nowhere and his evil plans, so as far as he knows, the Ravagers are a positive force in his mind. Forgetting that idiocy for the moment, why in the 10th layer of hell would you ever name your group after something that ravages? Ravaging is not a positive thing! You're either pillaging or you're bringing devastation and destruction! And even then, it just sounds stupid. And who are you supposed to be, do-gooders? You can call us the Ravagers! Ha 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 ha! No, seriously, what do you call yourselves? It sounds like a really crappy, overcompensating high school football team. The Cleveland Ravagers, perhaps. Hey, here's a quick list of better superhero team names than Ravagers. Justice League, Justice Society, Avengers, Titans, Legion, Champions, Defenders, Warriors, New Warriors, The Mighty, Infinity Incorporated, Seven Soldiers of Victory, The Power Force, Sovereign 7, The Conglomerate, Shadow Pact, Checkmate, The Sentinels of Magic, Demon Knights, Secret Six, The Deadpool Corps, The Hellsing Organization, The Dark Knights, Batmen of All Nations, The Sailor Scouts, The Scooby Gang, The Super Squad, and perhaps most damning of all, a name that is still better than Ravagers, The Quit Club! Harvest, your team name is stupid and you should feel stupid! And speaking of stupid, let's recap, shall we? Harvest kidnapped a bunch of teenagers to fight to the death. They didn't. Harvest sent in the Ravagers. They got their asses kicked. And now Harvest is sending himself in. Aside from a pointless death, that is all that has happened in an oversized issue and a regular issue. Technically, 2.5 normal comics worth of material have just had a big fight scene, and that's it. I'm so glad we devoted 4 comics to this. So let's dig into Legion Lost number 9 and see if anything new will happen. The cover for this one is okay. Harvest standing at the forefront with his energy scythe, and the Titans and Legion are hung up on bones? Sticks? I don't know. Revealed! The secret behind Harvest! What secret? The one where he's not very good at his evil plans? Yeah, we kind of figured that one out already. Yeah, that secret of his, already told you. It's that he thinks he's a good guy. We don't even learn his origins here. In a comic built around a giant fight with a villain, we don't even know the villain's backstory or motivation. They don't reveal that for at least another 10 issues, long past the culling and long past the point that anybody cared. We open with a big blue explosion, sending the Titans and Legion flying. Barely 10 seconds have passed since they stood triumphant. Actually, everybody seemed pretty down and depressed at the end of Superboy number 9 because of people who apparently died, except they didn't. Consistency! That's what an editor is for! 10 seconds since they dared believe they might survive the culling. A battle to the death pitting metahumans, victims of the hypertaxis virus, and normal teenagers against one another. Yeah, it doesn't get any less stupid the more you explain it. 10 seconds since hope flickered in their hearts and they imagined escaping the Antarctic complex of nowhere. Well, I assume it's 10 seconds. I have to imagine that a lot more seconds have passed since I started my pretentious narration. We see that the source of the explosion is actually Harvest's weapon here. And no one else is reacting to the explosion anymore. So that splash page was especially pointless. It'd explain why the narrator suddenly decided to go for a coffee break instead of pushing his 10 seconds crap. So, what does Harvest have for us now?
I anticipated your momentary victory over my loyal minions, and ordered them out of the Crucible so that we could get better acquainted.
Bullcrap! The Titans knocked them all out! It's hard to order unconscious people to do what you want! And this pretty much shows why it didn't matter if you skipped the Superboy issue. Nothing was accomplished. Hell, this pretty much shows that the people who wrote it didn't pay any attention to it.
I need new Ravagers for the great battle that is yet to come, but only the bravest and strongest may serve me.
Do you have a really good benefits package? Do you offer flex time or telecommuting from home? Paid vacations? Give me something here, Harvest, because you have not given any reason why the hell anyone would want to work for you! Okay, we've been really negative so far in these last 3 parts concerning Harvest, so let me give you something positive. I actually really like the design of Harvest. He's got this Grim Reaper or Angel of Death thing going for him, with the black wings, the scythe, tattered rags, all that. To go with that, he's got a very skull-like face without it being evident that it's skull-like. The lack of visible eyes or nose, only seeing the teeth, it's actually a damn good villain look. It's a pity, then, that Harvest thinks that he's a good guy, so that the entire scary Angel of Death thing actually just makes the character all the more baffling. We've got Pete Woods and Brad Anderson on art and colors respectively this time, and like the Superboy issue, it's a marked improvement over Brett Booth's art from the annual, where everyone pretty much looked the same except for their outfits, which still looked the same. That being said, the colors here are still a bit muted, so back to the colors being boring, but at least it's not as dark looking as before. Anyway, Wonder Girl charges at Harvest, but Dawnstar and Robin tell her they need a plan. And I guess she listens, since suddenly the next panel has Tirok ordering that telepathic link from last time be extended to the Titans, and Wonder Girl is nowhere to be seen. Don't you love it when sequential art doesn't actually follow a sequence? Hey, want more examples of that? Tirok says that Harvest is behind some kind of protective force field when he tries to fire some kind of sonic attack. But then Bunker charges in and gets in a few punches on the dude. The editing is so bad that they forget things that they just said. God, I hate this whole stupid... I love this comic. The editing is great. Bunker launches his attack, acting full of himself for no reason, yet it is a bit refreshing because he's not angsting like Robin or Superboy was last issue. I like this group thinking thing, because I know you're all checking me out with your minds. Damn this telepathy, he knows! Harvest backhands Bunker away, though, and the groups start coordinating their plans. Dawnstar is ordered to get all the other teenagers away. If that madman's troops can leave the Crucible, your tracking abilities should be able to find their exit point. Good idea, except we already established that they have teleportation capability! That's how they got in beforehand! But why would I expect the writers to actually remember things that they wrote? Bunker, Chameleon Girl, and a Legion member named Gates are sent off to lead the teens away. Wait, now all the teenagers are awake too? For crying out loud, they were unconscious! The entire point of the end of the annual was to get them all knocked out so they wouldn't be killing each other. These comics came out within mere weeks of each other. Did no one actually read them back to back to make sure they maintained their own internal continuity? I am utterly convinced that the editor and the assistant editor took one look at the premise for this and spent all the time they should have been doing their jobs playing XCOM or something. Meanwhile, Ridge of the Ravagers wakes up.
Blasted wildfire! Cracked me bleeding skull, I'd wager. Couldn't join the others when Harvest ordered us to faff off.
I wish everybody involved in these comics would just faff off. Chameleon Girl refuses to go help the escapees, instead charging at Harvest and saying she answers to a higher authority.
At last, I was wondering when or if you would dare reveal your true allegiance. Your masters at Echo will be very disappointed in you, Yera Alon.
Wow! I'm sure that'd be a shocking revelation if I actually read this book instead of just reading it because of the crossover. I sure hope they explain that reference so that new readers will be able to understand its significance. Hell, Wildfire seems to reflect my sentiments there.
How does Mr. Monster know Chameleon Girl's real name? And what the hell is Echo? Of course, that explains the 31st century tech he uses.
Maybe to you, I could use a bit more clarification.
I must somehow make sense of our convoluted situation.
But why bother explaining things for new readers? After all, nobody involved in the entire damn reboot seems to care about explaining things for new readers. Anyway, back to the fight that never ends. Wildfire says he can take out the force field with some anti-energy blasts.
Such power is precisely why I wish to recruit you, Wildfire.
Is it in their contract that they can't be fired for 5 years? Is the starting salary in the 6-digit range? Is he allowed to be as rude to customers as he wants? How do you get people to work for you? But yeah, they're knocked away, and then Kid Flash tries to run in, and he gets smacked away. Tirok tries to use telepathy on him, but his mental defenses are too strong. And then, just to add insult to injury, it turns out that he's telepathic too, since he's able to get into their telepathic link. Prometheus from Cry for Justice is looking at Harvest right now and thinking this is getting ridiculous. And it won't stop being ridiculous, my friends. Meanwhile, Dawnstar Bunker and the escaping teenagers manage to escape the Crucible somehow. They run into a character named Caitlin Fairchild, formerly of the comic Gen 13. I know absolutely nothing about Gen 13, so don't expect any criticisms there. Only that, unlike half of the other characters, she's actually still a good guy and wants to help them escape from the facility. Of course, she says that she did work for Nowhere until they betrayed her, so yeah, how nice that your morality only counts when it affects you. Oh, and speaking of heroes turned villains, Rose Wilson has arrived again with more guards. Caitlin shoves Thunder and Lightning aside and goes in headfirst to fight her and try to get her to change sides.
Stop trying to appeal to my better nature, Caitlin. I don't have one!
What goes through the heads of some writers? Hey, here's this character that people love because of their constant struggle with the temptation to do evil, but trying their damnedest to be a good guy. Well, better make them unrepentantly evil! Bunker and the aforementioned Gates have somehow lost track of the teens following them. I have no idea how the hell you do that when the corridors are this small, and it was a pretty damn big group, but whatever. As they turn back to look for them, Gates comments about the stupid Tron outfit, but is interrupted when he discovers a time bubble. For those who don't know, those are the TARDISes of choice in the future, though with less bigger on the inside and more, boy, it's really crowded in here. Back in the Crucible, it's time for the big reveal about Harvest's idiocy.
I wish we could dispense with this nonsense.
Seriously, the bad comics keep doing this, becoming self-aware and making the critiques for me.
Instead of wasting precious time in a futile attempt to resist me, you should all embrace my cause. Free donuts in the employee lounge every Monday. I am not a madman, nor do I seek power for its own sake. My only desire is to save the future.
I am not trying to destroy the world. I am trying to save it.
Explain your great plan.
All I had to do was invent time travel, then go back in time, and then the future would be better.
Actually, you know what? That clip has inspired me. Screw the dark, evil voice for Harvest. His plan is so stupid and nonsensical that I'm gonna give him the abridged Paradox voice. Instead of wasting precious time in a futile attempt to resist me, you should all embrace my cause. And now Robin points out every single fricking flaw with the idea that Harvest is a good guy. If your goals are so noble, why kidnap teenagers? Why experiment on them and subject them to all manner of torture? Why stage a culling that forces them to kill each other? Good questions! Because I needed Ravagers! Not a good answer! And will happily sacrifice a few hundred wives to save Quintilwins!
Any other day I'd say no, but today I'm gonna go ahead and just say no.
I think at this point I've pretty much shown how completely idiotic this entire idea is. But yeah, people have said that Harvest's actual backstory is being an asshole who fought a war with metahumans in the 31st century, and so he decided to go back in time and wipe them out in the past. Genocide! The most noble of goals! I have made countless sacrifices to make certain we have all come to this moment in the here and now! What? Did you really think you met the Titans by happenstance? There are no coincidences! Only the strings of a great puppeteer!
My plan is great.
Also, a lot of innocent people died.
Yes, there was a little collateral damage, probably not important. My plan is great.
Yeah, just keep telling yourself you totally planned all of this, dude. You planned for people to escape and just happened to run into others. You planned for Robin to turn down your offer of joining you. You planned for him to attack your headquarters with a group of inexperienced teenagers instead of contacting the Justice League and letting them know what's going on. And you planned for them to knock out all the other teenagers and your army of Ravagers. You are a strategic mastermind!
You magnificent bastard, I read your book!
Wonder Girl states that she and the Titans are gonna kick his ass. Well said, Wonder Girl. Such spirit and dedication will make you a worthy Ravager if you survive this day. So you're trying to kill them now, so the only way they'll actually be worthy of joining you is by defeating you. Which means they'll just escape the same way the other teenagers did and not work for you.
There is logic in what he says.
Tirok tries a new attack formation with the Legion, which basically amounts to everybody charge at him at once, but that kind of thinking is exactly why Harvest wants them, he says. And he just knocks them all away with one slash of his scythe. Their paramilitary strategy has proven itself to be utterly useless against you, Harvest, so what the hell good is it? He says that the hypertaxis virus, the reason why the Legion came to the present time, is just going to evolve until it loses its mutagenic contagions, whatever the hell that means. But this is apparently shocking to the group, despite them not having any reason to believe a single word this asshole says. Back over to Thunder and Lightning, since I'm sure you cared oh so much about what happened to them. They knock out the remaining guards.
Nowhere is gonna pay for what it did to us! And especially to Artemis!
And a narrative caption reminds us that she was killed in the annual issue. Thanks for the reminder, dickheads! While Bunker and Gates lead the remaining teens away, Rose and Fairchild fight and talk about lying to each other and drama and blah blah blah, I so do not care. And yet this fight technically means that this comic passes the Bechdel test. So I guess there's another positive we can give to this idiotic story. Ridge suddenly shows up and knocks out Rose.
Made me remember my time in the colony. Hated it. Hate being a Ravager even more.
Then why did you join them? Back in the fight, Superboy's tactile telekinesis proves useless against Harvest. Of course it does. Nothing else has worked, because Harvest is a Gary Stu villain, wherein he's just stronger than everybody else for no reason. Wildfire of the Legion decides to sacrifice himself to try to take the guy out. See, his body is composed of pure energy inside of a containment suit. As such, he tells Tellus to create a force field around him and Harvest so he can unleash his full energy against him. Don't be so hasty, Wildfire. I anticipated this possibility, and it will fail. This is the kind of villain who would claim that he planned for every possible permutation of what could happen while going out to get a cup of coffee, including a trans-dimensional portal opening up in his car and replacing his coffee with tea. And so our comic ends with Wildfire unleashing all that energy, declaring that he's ending this now. And of course, Harvest unleashes his own stupid powers back at him and takes him down. Does anyone else intend such a vain and futile gesture? I suggest you indicate your answer by kneeling before me.
Kneel before
No, we're not doing that clip. I refuse to dignify this jackass by having him be associated in any way with General Zod. I don't get it. This guy is more powerful than all of the teenagers. Why does he need Ravagers? This has really just indicated why this entire crossover is pointless. The villain is so powerful that he has no reason to be trying to recruit anybody. Sure, I get minions to do dirty work that you don't want to concern yourself with, but you've already got those! If something proves too much for your own forces, deal with it yourself! And the fact that he's so invincible really just makes me scratch my head even more. Why is he bothering to go in and fight them when it's clear he's already beaten them? Make the job offer, kill them when they refuse, and then try again with all the other teenagers. This comic sucks! But we've still got one final issue of this crossover, so let's see how unsatisfying they can make the conclusion. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. It's the final issue of the Culling. What is there left to say about this pitiful excuse for a crossover? Why did this even need to be a crossover? Except for the fact that Harvest is taking teenagers, there is no reason why these characters should be interacting with one another like this. And even that just makes you scratch your head because there's no reason why it only needs to be teenagers. Wouldn't taking teenagers actually attract a lot more attention than adult heroes? And yeah, I guess adult superheroes would be harder to break or get to fight each other, but we've already seen how these stupid methods do nothing to make these characters want to join up with Harvest, so there's still no point. Just give Superboy his original origin, not the convoluted crap they ended up doing to tie him into Harvest. Have Nowhere be some other evil organization targeting metahuman teenagers. It didn't need to be the crazy asshole from the future. At least the Batman crossovers had legitimate reasons why they were involved in those events. There is no reason for a Titans and Legion crossover before either book has hit 10 issues! Anyway, let's recap. Harvest, a dumbass from the future, created a dumbass organization called Nowhere to kidnap dumbass teenagers and make them fight to the death so that the winners would join his dumbass team called the Ravagers, who are apparently such dumbasses that despite hating being a part of the Ravagers, like one member has expressed, they never thought of just not joining them! Harvest has a super awesome force field and scythe and power that makes him completely immune to harm, thus making any point he had in having a superpowered army completely null and void, since he's already more powerful than them all! And because of the range of abilities he has and is able to shrug off so much, it's very unlikely that his defeat will be satisfying. I swear to God they're gonna beat Harvest by throwing a rock at his head. Let's dig into Teen Titans number 9 and finally move on from this nonsense! The cover is okay, Harvest standing over the broken bodies of the teenagers and holding up Wonder Girl for some reason. Of course, it's ruined by the color filters put on the thing like the first issue, which we can finally give blame to Andrew Dalhouse for. Brett Booth doesn't do the interiors like he did in the annual and on this cover, but the coloring remains consistent from there, so enjoy the orange and red gradient filters put over everything. Because it feels so nice to read a comic where the art is actually kind of hurting your eyes after a bit. Speaking of Brett Booth's artwork, I really have no idea what the hell expression Wonder Girl is conveying here. Anger? Confusion? Constipation? I don't know. Harvest wins! Of course he does! Frankly, with Harvest continually saying that everything is going according to plan, you could cut off his head, burn his body, and his ghost would still be claiming that everything is going swimmingly. We open with Harvest holding up Wildfire's body with one arm in a very awkward manner. Look at that, the head is resting on his ring finger and his pinky is extended out. Does he think he's drinking tea or something? This is why I started nowhere! To kill teenagers from the future! When I say that out loud, it does sound kinda dumb, actually. When the most powerful among you have fallen beneath little more than a shrug of my shoulders, it should be clear to even the most foolish among you that everything I have done, everything I have failed to do, has been in your best interest.
Well, what do you know? It's not every day you see the stupidest thing you've ever seen.
Understand, I take no joy in my actions. That's fine, nobody else does in superhero comics anymore. Every child who dies here in the Crucible is like a dagger in my heart. I have to believe that they didn't actually have Harvest's backstory written by this point, and were just making it up as they went along. Nothing of what people have told me about his motivations matches that he would give a rat's ass about these kids. I suppose you could say he was lying, but why the hell would he ever think that would convince them? What the hell would he expect the kids to say? Oh, you mean you do feel bad about all the kids who have been killed when you kidnapped and imprisoned them for months? Oh, how bad? Here, let me fill out that recruitment form. Want that in triplicate? Let's look at the other part of the page, the character portraits. At this point, all the little character heads on the opening splash page are just starting to look at the reader in complete disapproval. If this was animated, they'd be shaking their heads at anyone who bought this crap. Which means they'd be ashamed of me for doing so. And they'd be right. Superboy calls bullcrap on him actually caring about the kids, and Harvest naturally proves that right by telling Superboy to hold his tongue. Lest I tell it from your failure of a mouth. What the hell is it about his mouth that failed? Tellus confirms that Wildfire is still alive, but he needs time to recover. All the while, Harvest continues to whine that he has such great vision and seeks a better world, and oh my god, shut up, you stupid waste of a good character design! Robin calls him out as being frickin' nuts, and really, that's the best you can come up with to justify why Harvest's plans are so idiotic, that he's so insane that he doesn't realize how little sense they make. Right? If we got a vote, it would have been a unanimous nah. Ooh, sick burn there, Kid Flash. Kid Flash continues to ramble for a bit while Robin and Tirok converse over the psychic link. The same psychic link that last time Harvest was easily able to invade and thus know all your plans. Again! Why doesn't the writer remember things that he wrote? This is not complicated! It's not like it's some obscure fact you wrote 10 years ago. These comics were written side by side with each other. Urgh! They learn that most of the other teenagers have escaped, and Robin plans out a strategy. The Titans will throw everything they've got at Harvest, because it's worked so well so far, and the Legion will find and destroy the facility's central power core. I speak on behalf of my team when I say, it has been an honor. It's been a real honor only knowing you guys for about an hour tops and not believing that you're from the future. So the Titans attack Harvest, who's still shrugging off attacks and going, "It is your destiny! Join me and together we will rule the galaxy!" and crap. Over to the group getting the teenagers out, they're loading up escape pods. Wait, why does an underground facility have escape pods? They're not in the water or in space, they're in Antarctica! Sure as hell would have helped out McCready and the rest of the scientists from the thing if Outpost 31 had had escape pods! Fairchild says she initiated the emergency alarm to clear out the scientists and support staff too, but some guards show up to stop them. Thunder and Lightning hold them off while Dawnstar gets a message from the other Legion members for her and Bunker to withdraw. By the way, I just realized that Harvest actually took the time to cut out the boob hole for Dawnstar's outfit. I'm really starting to think this is less about saving the world from metahumans and just being a really pervy supervillain. Anyway, both note that they have team members missing, like Skitter and that Gates guy from last time, but enough of the plot points to ignore completely later. Time for more fighting! Because we haven't seen anything else lately, have we? Do you truly believe you've outsmarted me, Wed Woman? No, but I'm sure he's outsmarted the writer. Actually, there's a philosophical conundrum for you. Could a writer create a character who's truly smarter than they are? And I don't mean like in a genius level kind of thing, just obviously has more sense and skill than the person who created them. That I couldn't discern you sent the Legion to sabotage the power core, hoping to force me to flee? I don't even know what to say to this, because this is all that Harvest's dialogue is. Blatant exposition that we already know about, while reinforcing that he's just so super awesome and unbeatable. It's so boring. The action is the same repetitive nonsense. Charge at Harvest. Harvest kicks their asses again and again. This is the kind of comic that really just makes you stop and think you could be doing something more useful with your time. I could be dusting the bookshelves behind me. I could be sewing together a new jacket or building yet another cybermat. But no, instead I'm wasting my time recapping the story of a dumbass and the dumbasses he's fighting. Wonder Girl wraps her lasso around his arm. Just as you were supposed to, Wonder Girl. And now you have whipped my arm for my body. Everything is going according to plan. My plan is great. Hey, comic, any more superpowers you want to give Harvest? How about he's got super ventriloquism and can mimic anyone's voices? How about he can shoot rainbows from his hands that emit tiny versions of him? How about he has a metal plate in his head that allows him to pick up CB radio transmissions? I could be reading US 1 right now. And instead, I'm reading The Culling. This is how sad my life has become. Wonder Girl says he doesn't know everything about her for no reason. Of course I do! I come from a time and place where you have long been consumed by your own power. A power that means nothing to me. Then why did you kidnap her to try to make her join the Ravagers? Also, there's a narrative box in black and yellow that says, if I hit this wall, I'm dead. Who the hell is that supposed to be? Wonder Girl? Why would her narrative box be black and yellow? Superboy catches her, and after some verbal sparring and mistrust that amounts to nothing really within the series, yes, believe it or not, I'm still reading this comic, despite this story and the abysmal recreation of the Trigon arc, though the most recent issue was fairly decent. Superboy comes up with a plan, focusing his telekinetic powers through the lariat into Harvest. And, here's something that I know is going to really shock and surprise you guys. It doesn't work! Meanwhile, the Legion arrives in, the Eye of Harmony from Journey to the Center of the TARDIS? Seriously, it's almost the exact same damn thing! I'd say that they were ripping it off, except this came out before that episode of Doctor Who, like a year or so. I guess big rooms with glowing orange balls and a single catwalk are just universal concepts. Still, Doctor Who at least had the sense to add railings to their catwalk. OSHA's gonna be really pissed about this place, Harvest. Anyway, Wildfire starts recovering, and they attack what they say is the power core for the facility. Back over to the escapees, the remaining heroes and teenagers leave so they can have their stupidly named spin-off book. And in yet another sign that the editor was asleep at his desk, Caitlin Fairchild calls this woman with purple hair Tara, despite the fact that we've already established who Tara is, and she's standing right behind her. You know, the blonde-haired woman. Ugh. Back in the complex, Rose dispatches Warblade and a retrieval squad to go and get them back. Why the hell do you people care? Harvest has got to have, like, some kind of chocolate-making machine in this place. It's the only explanation why anybody still works for the guy. And back to the fight. You arrogant fools actually think you accomplished something worthwhile when you stopped the culling. You know, he's got a point. The entire culling thing stopped being relevant back in the annual. Why is this crossover called that? Wouldn't calling it Harvest make more sense? The Titans try to use some more strategy on him, like attacking from multiple sides, keeping a good watch on each other. In fact, they seem to actually be coordinating themselves better than the Legion, who were supposed to be a paramilitary group. Robin proclaims that they're taking this guy down. I was wrong to question your actions earlier, Red Robin. I will follow you to hell and back. What Solstice is referring to is from issue 7, where it was decided to throw in some forced conflict that made Solstice look like an idiot. They broke into the Nowhere facility to rescue Superboy, and Robin went off on his own to hack into their files and download all the data they had on the kids who were taken by Nowhere and experimented on. Solstice was apparently pissed off because Robin knew that other kids had been kidnapped, and he did nothing. Except there was nothing he could do! He's a single person who still needed all the others in the group to break into this place to begin with, and that he didn't know he had suspicions, and that getting this info could help them stop Nowhere from doing it ever again, and rescue all the other kids! And with that line of dialogue from Solstice in this issue, it just proves that they created a contrived conflict for drama, and then created just as much of a contrived resolution for it, even though she acted no differently to him in the intervening issues. Why did you create a conflict if you weren't going to do anything with it? The facility starts falling apart thanks to the Legion's attack on the power core. The Legion is right on schedule! Now, if only Caitlin Fairchild has played her part, and I do not doubt her, my former charges will be spread across the globe, creating fear, chaos, and confusion in their wake, and fanning the public's desire for an organization like Nowhere! You conned us!
A clever stratagem, Red. You're trying to confuse him, I take it.
And of course, Robin calls bullcrap on this, saying what I've been saying this whole time, that Harvest is just playing Spin Doctor. Ironic that he's playing Spin Doctor, since Harvest also happens to be Little Mr. Can't Be Wrong. While Harvest flies off, Gates meets back up with the Legion and reveals the time bubble to them. And then we can use this time machine to return home. And an editor's box tells us, find out how badly that goes in Legion Lost number 10. Well, thanks for spoiling to us that things don't go well, because building suspense and intrigue would just be stupid. Then again, what should I expect from the editors who can't even remember things said on the same damn page? Red Robin pursues Harvest, still wanting to take him down. I won this battle long before you uncovered the first hint of my existence. My huge facility is destroyed, my Ravagers are in shambles, the culling has stopped, and everybody now knows I'm around. Yep, pretty much 100% victory for me. My plan is great. It is something of a tragedy. Two humans battling for the fate of the metahuman population of tomorrow. Yeah, you're human? Then why? How is the better question here? How the hell was he able to counter all those superpowered forces if he doesn't have powers himself? Harvest tosses Red Robin back down, because his wings turn to ribbon or something. I don't know, you make sense of this panel. And Harvest gets away. Yep, 4 issues of fighting, 2 of them spent against the main villain, and said main villain completely escapes, not even seemingly damaged by this experience. I know I already used this clip from Code Ment back in the Tales to Offend review, but frankly, it feels even more appropriate here.
What is the point of this thing?
The other Titans convince Robin that they've still scored a victory here despite Harvest escaping, and they need to focus on getting away from the crumbling structure. By the by, they're supposed to be at least a mile underground, yet they can see the sky from here as if it's only 10 feet away. Of course. Superboy and Wonder Girl wrap the other Titans up in a ball of earth to try to survive the collapsing structure and start flying up before the complex seemingly explodes. I say seemingly because we don't actually see an explosion, just the surface of Antarctica. Mere moments later, the Nowhere Complex is consumed by flames and fury. We could not afford neither flames nor fury, so enjoy this giant quack-a-boom sound effect instead. What seems like an eternity passes. I know, right? It feels like ages since we started reading this comic. And so our crossover ends with the Titans waking up on a beach and find a feathered dinosaur looking over them. A caption at the bottom tells us that next issue is The Mystery of Mystery Island. Yup, that's seriously how this crossover ends.
We hope you've enjoyed No Moral Theater, ladies and gentlemen.
You know, a lot of people in the comments have been debating about which is worse, The Culling or Avengers Arena. What do I think? Well, that's simple. Cry for justice. Seriously though, who the hell cares? They both suck, just in different ways. In the Culling's case, it's a 4-issue crossover where we don't know the villain's backstory and motivation, the heroes barely interact with each other outside of fighting side by side, the villain escapes, and the only thing accomplished is that a fan-favorite character who could have been a new member of the Titans to tie into the Young Justice cartoon was killed off in her first appearance. I know someone could say that the other thing that was accomplished was the Ravagers series, but why the hell would I call that an accomplishment? Everybody who worked on this wasted their time, but most importantly, the audience's time was wasted. Hell, the entire opening arc of Teen Titans was leading up to this? Resolution on Nowhere and Harvest was handled in Superboy and the friggin' Legion books! If this crossover was to get me to read those series, I hate to break it to ya, but there was nothing here to make me want to pick them up! This is the new 52 reboot, my friends. Pointless stories that go nowhere in their own titles, needlessly changing character backstories and personalities, and crossovers that at best make you shrug and go, that's it? And yes, there are good titles. I've listed some of them, and I could have listed some more. Hell, just check out the comments, and people have offered more titles you could be buying right now. However, a lot of them didn't really need a reboot in order to be good, and others you just wonder what the hell they're smoking. Wonder Woman's Amazons as rapists, murderers, and slavers? Thinking women readers are only interested in romances like Twilight, so pairing up Superman and Wonder Woman? The Lobo redesign? This comic sucks, and a lot of other comics in the new 52 suck too. Needless to say, this won't be the last time we look at this reboot. That being said, vote with your wallets, my friends. Check out the recommendations. Buy stuff that's good, and show DC that we're not gonna tolerate crap like The Culling anymore! Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. This should have been reviewed a long time ago. 3 years and 170 episodes ago, I did a 4-part retrospective on the Teen Titans, up to my favorite series of the book, the late 90s, early 2000s version that began with my favorite comic of all time, JLA/Titans, The Technis Imperative. This was a glorious time to be a DC fan. Aside from the fact that DC creatively had gotten their acts together and put out some fantastic revivals of books that had been having so many problems, but also DC actually for 2 years had a larger market share than Marvel. If you want more details there, look at SF Debris' Rise and Fall of the Comic Comics Empire videos. However, the sad truth about comics, especially in the last 20 years, is that books will start strong, but will lose interest over time as the readership stabilizes. It is almost always a downward spiral, like water slowly leaking out of a glass with a teeny tiny hole in it. It'll take a while, but it'll empty eventually. The Titans ended in 2003 with about 22,000 readers. Still within the top 100 books, at number 98, but also pretty low when it comes to justifying keeping books around. Remember that Threshold book from the Blue Beetle retrospective? Yeah, that dropped below that point after its first issue. The fact that they let it limp along for another few issues is amazing to me. Doing slightly better by only about 1,000 readers was a little book called Young Justice. The Titans at this point were mostly adults, although in retrospect, the new Teen Titans of the 80s were mostly made up of people who were 18 and 19 years old, but I suppose the new Young Adult Titans doesn't have quite the same ring to it. While Young Justice filled in the next generation of teen superheroes, including the Tim Drake Robin, Superboy, the Cassandra Sandsmark Wonder Girl, Impulse, and more. With both series having fairly low sales, it was time for a shakeup, and much as I prefer the Adult Titans book, I do see the need to revitalize the franchise, especially since the book itself wasn't exactly doing as great as it used to be creatively. Titans Tower was in shambles, the team at each other's throats at some points, and a mediocre alien invasion story was concluding things. To make matters worse, the Titans book always felt disconnected from the rest of the DC universe. They would acknowledge events going on in other books, but I'd be damned if I could name 5 titles that ever referenced them during their run. I have not read Young Justice, but those who have told me that things over there were going just fine. The problem was just that nobody was reading it. The consistent quality was helped by the fact that Peter David of Bill Jemas Made an Idiot Bet With Me that Marvel would do better than my book fame was the longtime writer of it, aside for a couple of issues. Having a single writer for the entire book's run means that you can actually develop the characters and plan things for the long term. So yeah, while the books were not horrible, it was probably time for a new status quo to attract readers. A big relaunch, especially since the Teen Titans animated series was coming that year. Unfortunately, in order to get there, we got this craptastic miniseries. The fact that the relaunched Teen Titans was so successful after this garbage dump of a miniseries is nothing short of a miracle. Graduation Day, at best, is just kinda lame, but at its worst, it's infuriating. This may not be as bad as Cry for Justice was, but it feels like it's in the same vein of middle finger to the audience that was. A spiritual prequel, if you will. A story that not only hates these characters, but hates you for liking them. You know, assuming that they even have enough enthusiasm to hate them. Graduation Day is a textbook example of a little thing that Mystery Science Theater 3000 described as,
"They just didn't care."
So let's dig into Titan/Young Justice Graduation Day #1 and see how you destroy two teams with a shrug and a disinterested sigh. Normally I wouldn't look at the covers, and I won't be for the other 2 issues, but this cover, this is special. First of all, it's a complete lie. The Titans and Young Justice do not fight each other in this book. I have no idea where the hell this cover came from. It wasn't any of the individual issues covers. This had to have been specifically created for the trade, meaning nobody actually read the damn thing when they put this together. I have further evidence of that, which I'll get to later. Even the book's logo pisses me off. Why is the day in Graduation Day falling off and slanting like that? You couldn't fit your logo on one line? Obviously you know how to shrink stuff since you put Titans and Young Justice above it without any problems. Oh, but then there's the title itself. Graduation Day. The writer, Judd Winnick, said in the lead up to this that this is the end, the death knell for both teams, and that a lot of people are going to get hurt. Yeah, because when I think of graduation, the first things that spring to mind are death and pain. Actual serial sexual harasser Eddie Berganza, editor of the book, said, teens have to grow up. Except, of course, they're staying the same age and still will act like teenagers and will just be on a different team. And, of course, the Titans aren't teenagers anymore, which was the entire point of their book. So this comic's name is an outright lie, too! As for the cover itself, which even if it was a fight between the two teams, is still pretty lackluster, being just for shots of heroes grappling with one another. The background is another shade of lazy, since it's just a vague sky with a gradient coloring. The matchups make sense, with Jessie Quick and Impulse being the two speedsters facing off, Donna Troy and Wonder Girl, who for some reason has really sharp nails and a demonic smile on her face. What the hell book were they thinking of when they made this thing? Nightwing and Robin. But the one that makes no sense is at the bottom, with Superboy and Cyborg. What the hell do they have to do with each other? It's just their heads, too. You didn't need to include them at all. In the actual cover for the first issue, they didn't either. Just Robin, Wonder Girl, and Impulse running with their shadows, forming stylized versions of their Titans counterparts. Simple, effective, and makes sense. The layers of bullcrap on this cover keep going, because we also have this inexplicable red stripe along the left side. Maybe this was a thing for trades at the time, but I don't remember this at all. Not helped by the fact that the creative team's credits are in there, but a lot of them go over the edge of the stripe. Why not just make the stripe half an inch longer and move everyone over? It's not like we're so desperate to see Nightwing's other fist. Hell, just shrink the credits so they fit inside it. This trade cover is maddeningly stupid. Although calling it a trade is being a bit generous. Even for a 3-issue miniseries, this feels thin and flimsy. And I have never encountered a trade paperback collection with ads for completely unrelated products on the back cover. Oh, and another thing that graduation apparently means. Glow-in-the-dark stickers. We open during some kind of battle. Donna Troy, Wonder Girl, Troya. Oh, I'm sorry, clearly we're not reading a comic book, just Donna's business cards. Child of humanity and goddess, offspring of the mortal realm and the beings of infinity. You have to buy a lot of Christmas gifts this year. Come to us, godling. Take your place in the war. We have need of you. And your battle bikini made out of a few pieces of string. Thank God she has those protective napkins covering her nipples. The underside of her boobs really turned the tide in this fight. And thus we have the title page, and good lord! Wow, that is ultimate Escher girls posing right there. Not only the classic boobs and butt visible at the same time, but her legs are spread so far apart that apparently she's a battle ballerina. A battle-rena, if you will. And of course, since she's twisting her spine around to such a degree, she's screaming in pain through gritted teeth. Hell, the very idea of screaming that loudly in the word balloon, yet having her teeth clenched, just seems silly as all hell. Oh wait, maybe she's screaming because she's gripping her sword's blade instead of the handle. Unless that sword's handle is just really that long for no good reason. Also, I think her sword is broken, so that's another reason to be screaming. Take a look at these demonic beings all around her that she's fighting. Yeah, they have nothing to do with what's actually going on. The eventual explanation for this makes no sense with these things, except as some kind of weird dream reinterpretation of things, but that doesn't explain the outfit that'd make Red Sonja roll her eyes at how impractical it is. Anyway, Donna wakes up. 1 month ago. 1 month before that nightmare, she was still waking up from nightmares? Man, Donna's got issues. But yeah, the battle was a dream, of course. I can't imagine anyone consciously choosing to wear that outfit. I don't even know why this felt the need to say 1 month ago. It's not like there's some massive framing device about a story being told in the future. It's just that a month ago, she was having weird dreams where her torso swiveled around 180 degrees. She's been having these dreams for months, which makes the 1 month ago timestamp make even less sense. They are always the same, but with some variations. She is always fighting. She is always outnumbered. She does have more fun when the variation is a swarm of kittens just rubbing up against her, though. She is always in pain. Gee, I can't imagine why that would be. But they are becoming more and more real. Donna can feel the heat, smell the sickeningly sweet odor of carnage. Then she remembers that she just put in a carnage-scented air freshener in her apartment. She tastes blood. Damn you, gingivitis! However, Donna is frightened by how she feels like she's welcoming the dream more, which, yeah, would be cause for concern. Except she just woke up screaming in horror at it, so how she's welcoming it is not entirely clear. We then cut to last night in Austin, Texas, specifically 3:28 a.m. We desperately needed to know what time it was. A blue-skinned, pink-haired robot suddenly emerges out of a pink energy portal. I wonder why she looks so badly damaged.
Too much pink energy is dangerous.
Her internal narration indicates that she's trying to reboot into maintenance mode and that she's traveled through time, but also that she now needs to seek out cybernetic organisms. And cut away.
That was a great scene.
It's 21 hours later, 11:06 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in San Francisco. It's like this comic is actively poking me to prevent me from yelling, "What time is it?" And instead I'm just yelling, "Why do I need to know this?" We're at the offices of Optitron, an international conglomerate that works to help improve the world while also controlling a good chunk of the world's media. The CEO of Optitron, Gene Walters, is giving a pitch to the Titans. And look, they're showing off how they've helped out Anthony Perkins, Abe Vigoda, and Betty White. Anyway, they're making a sales pitch to fund the Titans, which for some reason includes Cyborg. If you recall the Titans retrospective, Cyborg left around issue 20 because he finally could resume a humanoid appearance. Long story short, that got undone in the pages of Flash, and he was back to his classic look. That being said, he wasn't a member at this time. What the hell is he doing here? The same goes for Tempest. In fact, Tempest's presence is even more baffling. He was forced to quit the team by his wife because of life-threatening injuries he had sustained. It's why Optitron is even making the offer to fund the team. Tempest was the one who funded them originally, but he left and therefore was unable to bankroll them. But if he's here, why are they even at this meeting?
They just didn't care.
Before Gene Walters actually says that, though, we have Nightwing being rude to them in the middle of the presentation since they were all flown out here for a reason. Which makes me wonder what he thought they were doing there otherwise. Then again, maybe he's just pissy because they're having this meeting at 11 o'clock at night. Was that the reason they told us what time it was? To indicate that it's past Nightwing's bedtime? But yeah, Optitron wants to supply the Titans with new tech, a base, and the funding to focus on doing their superhero stuff. Nightwing naturally wants to know what they get out of it. Walters tries to spin that it's for the good of the world, but Omen, being psychic, reveals that they want the biggest tax write-off in American history, leading, of course, to the inevitable crossover between the Titans and Captain Tax Time. Walters doesn't deny it, and really, when there's a telepath in the room, why would you even try? But he also says that the tax savings will be passed on to consumers of their products and their employees, something that Omen confirms he means. He's telling the truth. Their hearts are in their wallets, but they do want to help. I also keep my kidney in my messenger bag. Also, I just noticed this, but did they name Gene Walters after Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk? I'm sure it's just a coincidence, like they unintentionally made up the name, especially since this guy never shows up again after this issue. But if it was a deliberate reference, why? Anyway, yeah, people who legitimately want to help, even if they do get some benefits out of it, and Omen confirms that they have no nefarious secondary intentions or anything like that. And really, the Titans have gotten funding from both private industries and the government before, so this seems like it'd be a good deal. Or Nightwing can flat out refuse, storm off in a huff, forcing Arsenal to chase after him and ask what the hell. It begins with them just funding us. Then they've got us fighting their own little wars. I'm sure there's some land rights issues in Asia that they'd love for us to tackle. Yes, and you couldn't possibly negotiate with them or contact Bruce or Clark or the various other either super rich or skilled investigators to look into potential problems and come back with a counter offer if you see anything shady. No. Best to just be a dumbass. I don't want to give the impression that I'm all gung-ho for this idea. Nightwing's concerns are legitimate, but it really bugs me how high and mighty he's acting when he just got confirmation that they weren't looking to do horrible things to them. And when you get right down to it, considering how often superhero vehicles and headquarters and equipment gets trashed and needs replacement, this is a bigger, more expensive risk for Optitron. Hell, the Titans have a track record of this crap bigger than their tower. You know, the one that recently got blown up and you need a replacement for? Oh, and spoilers for one of the books that came after this. Yeah, they're on the up and up. Optitron is actually a subsidiary of Wayne Enterprises. Bruce set the whole thing up to help him out without Dick feeling resentful over getting help from him. So Dick's temper tantrum here is even dumber in hindsight. It's even more hilarious when you remember that the reason Dick is even with the Titans right now is out of fear that he was becoming too much like Batman. When Batman is showing concern for other people's feelings and can see the bigger picture and potential for good. Dick is just being a broody, self-righteous moron. Oh, but Arsenal doesn't point that out. Here's his response. Listen, aren't you sick of being second string? Aren't you sick of us repeatedly saving the world, fighting off brutal enemies, and battling in intergalactic wars? We're such Z-listers! This is an especially baffling statement to make when the end of their freaking book was about them stopping an alien invasion on their own. Had Judd Winnick never read any Teen Titans material beyond the Silver Age or something?
Folks, they just didn't care.
Nightwing doesn't trust Optitron because they also have brought in Young Justice, seemingly making the same offer to them. They want to create the fast food chain equivalent of super teams. Over 3 billion served! A supersize is when they call in all the other former Teen Titans for a big brawl. A number 7 is when one of them turns traitor. We cut to Tucson, Arizona, apparently in the middle of the day despite it just being 11 at night a minute ago. Then again, they are out in the southwestern US desert. This could just be Night Vale's fault. We go inside the Franklin military installation, where a bunch of robotic DC characters called the Metal Men are doing some work for the government. The robot from earlier teleports in and attacks, attempting to interface with the Metal Men, but they lack the necessary technology she needs, so she starts scanning for more. Back over to our heroes, they're continuing to argue about this, with everyone except Nightwing saying that they should hear them out and talk about this. Cyborg suggests that they take a break, but then, hey, did it just get a whole lot warmer? Ew, who peed in the pool? The android teleports in and immediately latches onto Cyborg, interfacing with him. The teleportation apparently created a massive energy blast that sent everyone back. When they recover, Argent and Jesse Quick leap into action and are blasted back and pretty much out of the story. Yeah, not only is the characterization poor in this book, there isn't very much of it, focused pretty much on Nightwing and Arsenal. For a team-up book, everyone is just kind of there. Also, Tempest can fly, apparently. News to me. Impulse and Empress of Young Justice leap into the fray, with Impulse vibrating through the android to try to shake her loose, while Empress goes to pull Cyborg free of her. All while this has been going on, and Nightwing has been ineffectually shouting out orders that most everyone is pretty much ignoring. Then again, considering Nightwing's dialogue in this book has been pretty crappy, I don't blame people for not listening to him. Both of you get out of there! Now! She's too unpredictable! How do you know that? She only appeared less than a minute ago! But indeed, the android deploys countermeasures to Impulse, creating another pink explosion. Wow, this episode could really get some mileage out of the too much pink energy clip. Cyborg is freed, but is also missing his legs, so that's a bummer on top of everything else. The robot starts pulling a Linda Blair by floating in the air on her back for some reason, exclaiming that she's entering into defense mode. At that maneuver, Superboy is switched into attack mode, but sadly the robot cannot be destroyed as a result of battle, and their turn ends. The robot tosses Superboy aside and freezes him in pink energy. Donna goes in and punches her from behind, and looking absolutely ridiculous as she does so. I've got to get in my yoga stretches during this battle. Why are her eyes closed? And again, Tempest cannot fly! Oh, and then he gets knocked out of the air by another energy blast. But hey, why would magic, super speed, tactile telekinesis, or anything else stop her when Arsenal can just shoot her with a gun, blasting her arm off?
You see, they just didn't care.
Not so tough now, are we, Lefty? Thank God I have both of my arms. As long as I got both of my arms, it's a China Cat-free life for Arsenal. Roy, I know you're just posing to be overly dramatic and crap, but could you stand somewhere else? You're right on top of Superboy's crotch. And that is apparently enough for the robot, who decides she's not powerful enough for this fight and teleports away. With this bizarre close-up shot of her eye for some reason. Seriously, it just zooms in on her eye and then teleport. What the hell? And now enjoy this montage of everybody injured or unconscious.
All in all, 100% successful trip.
And so the first issue ends with Cyborg exclaiming that this was all a mistake. The robot didn't intend to hurt anyone, which Nightwing snarkily responds with, "You could have fooled me." That's because it was very poorly written, Nightwing. You should be used to that by now. Hey, you see that "to be continued" in the corner? Normally, that is a sign that the scans I'm working with are from the individual issues and not from the trade collection. That's because trades remove those since, well, there's no point in having "to be continued" when you're reading everything together in one book. Sure, they might throw in the issue's cover to indicate there's a break in the story, but otherwise text like that is taken out. Except for in this trade paperback, where that text is left in for both issues 1 and 2. As I said at the beginning, clear evidence that nobody actually read this thing before putting it together.
Folks, they just did not care.
This comic sucks, and it's only going to get worse. At best, it's pedestrian and average, supported on the idea that you're already familiar with these characters and thus don't have to work on developing their characterization in any significant degree. In some cases, that's okay, but it might have been helpful if we were given stronger characterization of members since, gotta be honest, I don't know very much about Young Justice. This was still during a time when I was only really following the Titans. That changed, obviously, but this book is supposed to bring about the end of 2 teams and start 2 new ones. And its first issue doesn't show off anything unique or interesting, just Nightwing complaining during most of it. The fight scene was atrocious. Aside from the robot just being overpowered and being able to counter everything thrown at her, everyone seemed impulsive and inexperienced despite, having more than 100 issues between the 2 teams, not even counting the full history of the Titans. Everybody was running at the robot no more than 2 at a time. And it's not like Arsenal defeated the robot by being clever or something, he just shot it! This is pitiful! Next time, we continue with Graduation Day, and the first of 2 huge missteps that made this book so infamous. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. We continue our look at the miniseries that very poorly ended 2 beloved books. Last time on Titan/Young Justice, Graduation Day. Everyone was an idiot, especially Nightwing. Let's just get this over with. So let's dig into Titan/Young Justice, Graduation Day number 2. We open at San Francisco General Hospital. No caption telling us what time it is, but how can I follow this book without that critical information? With the city lying adjacent to the San Andreas fault line, it's a facility prepared for disasters of all shapes and sizes. Some disasters are shaped like trapezoids, which is admittedly kind of weird. So they are prepared for nearly everything. But tonight's emergency admission was a new one for them.
So what do you think, Perry?
No, I'll tell you there, Bobo. Either this kid has a light bulb up his butt or his colon has a great idea.
No, the new thing is Nightwing doing the start of the YMCA pose and nobody continuing it. Masks stay on, unless it's medical. I want masks to stay on. Nightwing, less than half of you wear masks. And that's being generous, since Jesse Quick's mask is just a pair of friggin' sunglasses. They are Young Justice, a team of heroes, just in their teens. And the Titans. Many years ago, they were the Teen Titans. And yet Nightwing is speaking to them as if they were all still teens. But at the moment, the common chord is that they've all had their collective heads kicked in by some freaked out robot. If your narrator is just gonna talk like a person anyway, why isn't a person narrating? Maybe Donna? That woman whose dream was the start of the miniseries? Narrative cohesion? Or just be incompetent, that works too. But yeah, the doctors were a little overwhelmed by the superheroes, not knowing how to treat Cyborg, Impulse refusing to stay still and be treated. But then we get to a little problem from our old pal, the not caring fairy. Argent of the Titans and Empress of Young Justice are both injured. We've got them both stabilized, but I have to admit we're a tad out of our depth. They bear most of the symptoms associated with being electrocuted, but with their unique physiologies. Now, as I said last time, I'm not really that familiar with Young Justice's characters. Fortunately, my viewers are, and helpfully pointed out, that that makes no damn sense. Argent is indeed part alien, so I can see that, but Empress is not. Aside from some mind control and magic powers, her physiology is the same as any other human. Because why would somebody who was making a book featuring these characters bother to actually research them? No, but seriously, why is Judd Winnick writing this book? 2 books came out of this miniseries, Jeff Johns' Teen Titans and Judd Winnick's Outsiders. I'll get more into that next time, but aside from the robot, the only 2 characters from this to join the Outsiders were Nightwing and Arsenal. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Jeff Johns would have done that much better a job considering what the plot of this is, but at least it would make more sense given more characters here went to Teen Titans than Outsiders. And in case you're wondering, yeah, I'm still gonna use those clips.
They just didn't care.
While the doctors aren't much help, Nightwing already called ahead and got some specialist help. Dr. Sarah Charles, a recurring Titan supporting character, who's coming in with Star Labs personnel, who are all apparently wearing body armor for some reason. Hi, Victor. How are ya? Hey, Sarah. I'm great. Wanna go dancing? Turns out with my legs separated, I count as 2 people. We make great swing partners. 1 hour and 26 minutes later. What, no seconds count too? It's almost like we wouldn't care how long it actually took or something. But yeah, the group is mostly doing better. But Argent worries me a little. I'm gonna keep her on the vent until she's more reactive. It should only take her a few years to appear in another book, nothing to worry about. They get Dr. Charles up to speed about what happened, and she says she'll contact all Star Labs facilities to see if they can track the energy signature of the robots teleporting. Speaking of, we cut over to a nearby Star Labs facility in Silicon Valley, which begins running scans in their dark rooms with bright green screens in it. Because let's face it, the one thing that super scientists all like is eye damage. Also, Ale Garza, the artist, chose not to put anything on these bright green screens. That's normally fine. We don't need details like that for small panels, but this panel ends up being unintentionally hilarious as a result. Dobbs, what's that? Ma'am, that's the new monitor we bought the other day. It's not even turned on. They detect the robot's energy trace, and it's teleporting right into their facility, choosing to go into the lobby, I guess, given this establishing shot of a receptionist and some guy just waiting around reading. The robot quickly detects what it's looking for and starts smashing at the ground to get to it. Fortunately, there's an entire squad of identical-looking cannon fodder waiting to go in and confront her. However, as the robot finally starts breaking into the chamber, as the security personnel call it, they just decide to break out a huge-ass gun to deal with her. If we miss, this'll affect the structural integrity of the building. Well, then maybe this shouldn't be Plan A. Gotta love how the premier scientific research company of the DC Universe hires only the smartest people. Fortunately, they do not miss, and the whatever the hell it is, seriously, Garza didn't even draw an energy beam or anything, the gun glows or something, blasts the robot away. It continues to talk to itself, remotely interfacing with what's inside of the chamber, and then uses up most of its remaining power to initiate a plasma magnetic pulse, which might be a real thing. I tried to do a Google search on this, but it's a lot of advanced physics and science I'm not familiar with, and even then I doubt it would work like this, but whatever. It's basically the off switch for all the guards and their weapons. And this is why you should have read Arsenal's report that said that the robot's weakness is bullets. Seriously, where's UNIT when you need them? Having used up all but 1.78% of her power with that little maneuver, she begins to shut down. And, of course, loudly exclaims that she's doing so. Who the hell programs a robot to loudly announce this stuff anyway? Especially when there's nobody else in the room that it's talking to, and that talking would just waste more of its power. And yes, I know who she is and her backstory. That just means it makes less sense. Also, why the hell did she teleport away during the fight with our heroes when apparently she's got a bunch of tentacles that can spring out of her arm socket? But whatever, she collapses. But out of the chamber emerges Superman! Superman, defender of robot kind! Anyway, he picks up the robot and flies off with her. We cut back to the hospital, where Robin and Superboy are in a closet together, and Superboy is putting his clothes back on. I'd give you context to this to eliminate the innuendo resulting from that, but I have none to give. The two are just in a closet together, and Superboy is putting his pants back on. What just happened? That was dumb. I know, I heard you the first 3 times. How could neither of us have brought a condom? What do you keep in that utility belt? But yeah, Robin is berating him over flying at the android like he did, especially after Impulse and Empress got themselves hurt too, even though their plan at least was working and there was no way to know that the android would be able to blast them back like that. This is another big problem with this story. They're beating themselves and each other up over this stupid fight when honestly I don't understand what was so wrong about their actions, especially when Nightwing's plan was, let's just stand back here and do nothing. Oversimplification, yes, but as far as they could tell, they were under attack, they got the civilians out, and the plans utilized were not bad ones. It's just the robot was given super special powers to counter them because that's what a lazy writer does. There we were, shoulder to shoulder with the very inspiration for Young Justice, the Titans. Okay, I may not be that familiar with Young Justice, but I know that's bullcrap. They just happened to come together one day. Even the name Young Justice was given to them by a reporter who misheard them. Why did you include these characters if you didn't know anything about them? But Tim's point is that they've lost half of both teams. Tim, I bet they were a lot like us when they started. No, I don't think so. You're right, you guys haven't abandoned your costumes for really lame reasons, joined a creepy old guy's peacemaking operation, and went to the moon on your way to Venus. In a nearby examining room, Nightwing and Troya overheard the two's conversation. Donna wants Dick to give some encouragement to the kids, but Dick is, well, a dick. I'm not sure a kind word is what they need. They need some damn direction. When we were the Teen Titans, each of us fought at the side of our mentor. These kids, they need to be taught. Yeah, if only Robin worked alongside Batman or Wonder Girl worked alongside Wonder Woman like they actually did. They need a leader. I'm pretty sure Wonder Girl is leading them. Maybe Robin? Why is this even a thing when the first two to leap into battle were from your team, Dick? Donna suggests he could be their leader. I can barely lead this team. Yeah, that's about right. But then again, whose fault is that, Dickwing? He changes the subject, asking about Donna's dreams. They feel more like visions than dreams. They're achingly real. Emphasis on the aching part. Dick asks what Wonder Woman has to say about them, but she hasn't told her. Why? This has been going on for months. You live in the same house. She'd definitely have an opinion on them. Well, that would be an intelligent thing to do, and we can't have that in this story. Plus, if she did, it might remove the stupid plot point that goes absolutely nowhere and makes no sense with the actual explanation. Anyway, after she deflects the answer to that with a glib remark about Dick and Batman's bad relationship, we do get a good scene, probably the only one in the entire mini, where Donna and Cassie talk. It's a very humanizing sort of conversation, and a hell of a lot better than the one between Robin and Superboy. Cassie is expressing her confusion and doubts about her superheroic life. How maybe she should just become a normal teenager, even though she admits she'd hate it. It's legitimate character development in layers, worrying about the future and not sure of one's own place in things. It's the kind of thing that a teenager would naturally be thinking about. But why would we want actual character development when we could have scenes of Nightwing being pissy? Cassie, we're different. We're not like the rest of the world. We have much better fashion sense. And you have to consider your destiny. Destiny? The hell are you talking about? Is Cassie supposed to become the president or something? Or do you mean her copy of that video game? I'm guessing there was either a rewrite, because destiny is never brought up after this, or Donna is speaking vaguely of her future. But the problem in superhero comics is your word choice is kind of important when some characters literally have destinies and stuff. But yeah, Donna says that they don't know what the future will bring, but that she's going to rise to meet it. Good scene, back to snarking. Cyborg has recovered enough to talk to the others about what happened. She was damaged in a fight. Or fleeing someplace. She's from the future. Over 2,000 years from what I figure. She was babbling something about Ted Turner's son going back in time too? It wasn't clear. She was simply just trying to contact other life forms similar to herself. I can barely get a program from over 10 years ago running on my computer, and her first plan was to interface with technology that's 2,000 years out of date?
That's gonna take some serious software.
That's why she ripped you in half? She needed a tune-up and this is how she asks? No. She fell into a defense mode when attacked. It was a gut response. No. She fell into defense mode after she was already trying to forcibly interface with you.
Great continuity!
One of the Star Labs soldiers runs in and switches on a TV.
For over an hour, witnesses have said that buildings suffered several explosions, the first of which took off part of the roof. No one from Contesto, the computer gaming company that occupies the building, has been reached for comment.
You see what happens when you try to develop virtual reality technology after the debacle in the 90s? This is what happens. Actually, it's a front for the Star Labs facility. The news report mentions that Superman is on the scene working in a laboratory, naturally confusing our heroes. Nightwing instructs everyone who's well enough to follow along, also telling everyone to look really bad in this side shot. Seriously, Nightwing's upper body is puffed up, but his arm looks short and stubby. Donna looks like she's trying to strut. Tempest looks okay, but Robin has huge thighs and hands. Robin, get your battle armor ready. Thanks, Dick. I guess I'll just pull that out of my ass. Well, that's where I've been keeping mine. Why do you think I've been so grumpy lately? And indeed, the Titans and Young Justice members who aren't injured arrive, with Arsenal also having a chin guard, the most important piece of armoring, I guess. And yet Omen does not have any armor. And go inside, standing behind Superman. Superman doesn't acknowledge them and they realize something's wrong. Impulse wants to try to do something, but Robin points out that, well, it's friggin' Superman. They can't do anything to him. However, Omen points out that she can't read his thoughts, almost as if he's in a trance. She thinks she can break him out of it with physical contact. Nightwing starts to object, but she thinks she'll be fine since she doesn't sense any aggression. She even loudly announces to him that she's going to gently touch his shoulder, the kind of approach you do when you're trying to get the attention of someone welding or something. I don't see how this could end badly. Yeah, this ends badly. Superman suddenly turns around and grabs her arm. In a moment of hesitation, no one goes to intercept Superman, even as Omen manages to scratch across his face. And our first major misstep that I mentioned last time. Omen's neck is snapped and she's dead. Thanks, Graduation Day. A pointless character death for no other reason than to show the situation is serious. You've really demonstrated how the characters of Young Justice need to change by killing off someone they didn't know very well in a situation they already realized was serious and were otherwise exercising good sense and caution. Or, you know,
they just did not care.
And before you think that Superman is indirectly responsible for murder, nope. The caption informs us what the deal is. This is a Superman robot, one of many created to wield nearly as much power as the man they identically resemble. Yeah, they really need to fix that murder glitch in the next patch. It's starting to become a real problem. Long ago, they proved to be unreliable. For safety's sake, they were all deactivated and put in storage. Until today. Note to self, disassemble the shades on board Comicron 1 ASAP. P.S. If unable to dismantle, put them in humorous poses. At least that way, if I die, it will be hilarious. And so the second issue ends, as I pointed out last time, with another to-be-continued box. Another shall die. Which makes this death even more pointless because Omen doesn't get a mini-series that brings her back to life. This comic sucks. Come back next week for the craptacular finale, and spoilers, major misstep number 2, the other death. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Let's put this piece of crap behind us, shall we?
Previously on Titan/Young Justice Graduation Day.
We learned that actually knowing anything about the characters you're writing is really more of a suggestion than a hard rule, as evidenced by this miniseries. The characters are idiots, although mostly Nightwing, who exists merely to bemoan and whine every single thing around him, from offers of help to how much he himself sucks as a leader, and their histories have been completely mangled because Judd Winnick, Ale Garza, and man who should have been fired for his repeated sexual harassment of female co-workers, Eddie Berganza, as a guy and two robots in space so eloquently put it,
just did not care.
As for actual plot details, the Titans and Young Justice were offered financial support, but before they could reach a decision, were attacked by a blue robot who managed to easily trounce a bunch of experienced veterans, not by being clever or anything like that, but because the story needed them to be beaten, and trying to make things good is really hard, you know? Said robot then broke into a Star Labs facility and turned on a deactivated Superman robot. So the robot who was supposed to be the main threat of the story had to subcontract out her duties to a completely different robot. That's how poorly put together this thing is. Just think about that for a second. The character who beat up our heroes in the first issue, the one that actually started these events that will lead to the dissolution of these teams, is not the one our heroes are fighting, but instead a random Superman robot she just happened to switch on while looking for advanced technology. Meanwhile, our heroes whined about how much they sucked despite all evidence to the contrary. And then when they confronted the Superman robot, it killed the character Lilith Clay, aka Omen, a character that, while not one of the original 5 Teen Titans, has been around since the original team from the 60s. And her death is an afterthought, because this was the only way to get new books for these two teams, I guess. So let's dig into Titan/Young Justice Bar Mitzvah number 3. What? The title has nothing at all to do with the story, so why keep pretending that it does? We open where we left off, only outside the Star Labs facility in Silicon Valley, California.
Contesto Incorporated, the false front for the Northern California division of Star Labs, currently handling 90% less fires and explosions than actual game companies. Outside, the cops are conferring with Dr. Sarah Charles about how they've apparently been in the building for 10 minutes. She's sure they can handle it, right before Tempest gets flung out of the building and into a fire truck. The most able-bodied members of the Titans and Young Justice have entered the building to investigate. It's going very poorly. And how is that different from anything else that's happened in this miniseries? Dr. Charles calls for a stretcher and neck brace for Tempest, who's rapidly losing consciousness. Wow, it sure was worth it to ignore continuity from the actual Titan series so Tempest could just get knocked out in the third part and contribute nothing else to the story. Before he loses consciousness, Tempest manages to tell Dr. Charles what happened, naturally making her start yelling for everyone to get the hell back from the area and making a lot of her face rather pointy. Seriously, look at this face. Pointy eyeshadow, Romulan eyebrows, her sideburns, her chin is more angular, and even her nose and mouth seem pointier than usual. But yes, the Superman android is active and engaged in battle, or rather, engaged in awkwardly standing over Omen's dead body while holding up Impulse as the Titans just kind of stand in the background, looking completely ineffectual and dumbfounded. Oh, and if you're wondering why the Superman logo has a black background, this is from a brief time when Supes adopted a black shield in mourning for those who had died in the crossover event Our Worlds at War. An event comic that was so important and huge that the Titans tie-in issue to it didn't actually show what they did. They did stuff off-panel while the issue focused on Argent on her own back at the tower. But yeah, the Superman robot. Some time ago, Superman had built several cybernetic automatons to be used in his absence. Instead, people used them to have Superman make out with himself, fulfilling the dreams of many clone-cest shippers. They did not operate well. Pollution, satellite frequencies, sunspots, electromagnetic pulses, the list goes on. All of the doppelgangers malfunctioned at some point. You don't even want to know what happened when they put Windows 10 on one of them. Most were dismantled. Others were turned into glow-in-the-dark stickers. But a handful were stored safely for study.
Why exactly did they have to be fully assembled for study? You just admitted they turn violent if somebody forgot to dust the things. Study them in pieces! Impulse tries his best to use his super speed on the android, but it's too strong and fast, sending him flying into some rubble. And some purple goo fizzles out of something. Oh, so that's what the purple stuff from Sunny D commercials was. Nightwing, do we have a plan? We have to shut it down, now! And clearly it was Robin who answered that, not Nightwing.
They just didn't care.
We can see Arsenal better now, and he indeed seems to be wearing some kind of protective body armor and not just his stupid techno chin guard thing. Yeah, you know those stupid giant earmuffs that Rob Liefeld always sticks on his characters? Arsenal's wearing them too, instead of any kind of real protection for his head. He fires some explosive arrows at the robot, and while it does damage its skin, it's not enough to take it down. Despite the body armor, Arsenal still takes a heat vision shot to the arm. Donna leaps in with whatever the hell this pose is. Seriously, try to diagram what her body is doing in this panel. Is that her leg down there? Is her upper body twisting in the wrong way? I have no idea. The point is that she tackles the Superman robot out of the area. And then Nightwing unhinges his jaw for some reason. Everyone move it! No one getting close until I say so! Donna, good job not being close to the thing you're tackling. But yeah, he wants them to keep a distance, which is frankly good advice in this situation, but fortunately some more help has arrived from an unexpected source. The Blue Robot. The Superman robot had been making repairs on it, including building it a new arm, and now it's functioning enough to talk to the Titans. Unit's primary protocols require the protection of humanity. The best way to protect humanity is to attack any other machines and interface with them just to repair myself. I'm not very well programmed. The Blue Robot, who I will now be referring to by her character name, Indigo, to distinguish her from the other robot, offers to help shut down the Superman robot, but needs help finishing her repairs to do so. Which is funny, considering she was able to wirelessly interface with it before while barely having any power or operating function, and now she's in better shape but can't just do that now? Anyway, Arsenal decides to help. I'm gonna need your help. I'm only working with one hand. Why do I suddenly have the urge to talk to zombie ghosts of my dead daughter and set things on fire? Robin is reluctant to help considering what it did before, but Arsenal thinks having her firepower is what they need in this fight. He holds up a flathead screwdriver. I like the idea of having her on our side. Now help me unscrew this thing on my face. It's really starting to hurt. Donna manages to tackle the robot half a mile away. They have just gotten lucky. The landing has disabled the faux Superman's internal gyros, making it incapable of flight. And here's another thing that my viewers so helpfully pointed out that I missed in regards to how terrible this thing is. Show, don't tell!
They just didn't care.
Wonder Girl and Superboy fly in, but Wonder Girl gets a helping a freeze breath while Superboy gets a chokehold. Nightwing comes running up. What did I say about getting in close?
Oh, throw that in my face!
He attaches a bomb to the robot to get it to release Superboy, and once again, Winnick feels the need to exposit to us what happens. Nightwing's thermocharge disrupts the robot's higher sensor functions and blows 6 power cells. And the robot hits him across the face, which causes his mask to shatter? What the hell? Okay, maybe he's wearing some kind of armored mask instead of the regular one, but if it's armored, how hard is that thing hitting that it can shatter it with a backhanded punch that only looks possible because it's a robot? At full power, had Nightwing taken this blow a minute earlier, he'd be dead. Bullcrap! He should be dead already if it shatters the thing into that many pieces! Not that Nightwing is feeling particularly lucky at the moment. You're right, he's feeling very ironic since he had earlier that day said, "Masks stay on." While Arsenal assists with repairing Indigo, Robin suddenly smells an odd array of scents, revealing that the purple goo from before is this guy, the superhero Metamorpho, believed dead at the time. Why is Metamorpho in a book about the Titans and Young Justice? Oh, well, that's simple. Well, okay, it's not simple. It's actually incredibly convoluted, since this isn't Metamorpho, but a piece of Metamorpho named Shift, who thinks he's Metamorpho. And actually, the reason he's here is very simple, and dear lord, this book is stupid! Okay, the reason he's here, because Shift is going to be joining Judd Winnick's Outsiders book. That's it. That's the sole reason he's here. Judd Winnick is just promoting the book he was gonna make in the wake of this, which I'll be talking about in a little bit. To reiterate, this character is making his grand return here just to promote something else Winnick was writing.
They just did not care.
With Nightwing about to get his face put into as many pieces as his mask, Donna jumps in and manages to deal with the robot.
She had been the first to be called Wonder Girl. She now is called Troya.
And for some reason, people just call her Donna Troy instead of her code name nowadays. Go figure.
Her life has been difficult, fraught with confusion and pain.
Mostly because writers keep trying to retcon her backstory. She's like Calvin Ball at this point. It's never the same twice. This story mentions how Donna was forced to live hundreds of alternate lives for herself because of the whole Dark Angel thing back in the day. And while this is going on, she just starts wailing on the Superman robot.
Ask anyone who knows her well, and they will tell you of her generous heart, her conscience, and loving nature.
I know, right? Watch as she generously gives this robot a beating.
But it should never be forgotten what kind of fire burns within. She is a soldier, a combatant, a gladiator.
Ask anyone who knows her well, and they'll tell you that's horse crap. A soldier? Combatant? Asshole, she knows how to fight well. That's not her nature, especially when you just admitted she's generous and loving and stuff.
She is an Amazon. She grips her sword handle hard enough to break it.
Then she's apparently a crappy Amazon, since she just broke her sword by holding it.
She brings her hand down with force so great that her own flesh tears.
That sounds pretty reckless and stupid, not the actions of a warrior. Seems more like you're describing someone who doesn't know what they're doing. But you know, dramatic and stuff. And this is certainly the imagery to evoke in a book called Graduation Day. But unfortunately, wait, it was a clear day a second ago. Why the hell are there a bunch of random lightning strikes behind her? But yeah, unfortunately, the robot uses its heat vision with enough power and intensity to burn a hole right through Donna's heart, killing her instantly. And she collapses, with all of that overdramatic purple prose now rendered utterly useless when she lays in a rather undignified pose with her ass in the air pointed at Robo-Soups' crotch. Classy. And this, my friends, is, of course, misstep number 2. Well, actually, allow me to clarify. It's not just the act of killing Donna Troy. See, she's not even really dead. The epilogue makes that clear. No. It's that they killed her right after they killed Omen. In the events that followed this book, Omen is rarely mentioned. Lilith's death is completely pointless to the story. She had no reason to die. They just killed her to add a dramatic moment to the Superman robot reveal, which apparently couldn't have just been her arm breaking or something. No. Kill off a character because screw you, anybody who likes her. Hell, you can't even argue that either character nobly sacrificed themselves or something. The Superman robot isn't dead yet. Indigo has to pop up on the next page and finish the job. You killed off 2 characters for nothing but shock moments in a terrible miniseries that is even more invalidated because, as I said, Donna isn't really dead, but everybody talks about her like she is and doesn't give a crap about the character who is dead. Oh, and to really highlight that, the funeral 2-page spread.
They buried Lilith the day before. She had very little family, and not many knew her well. Her service was kept small. Donna was a different story. She's touched so many. Nobody knew that Lilith girl. Who gives a crap about her? Hell, let's not even show any of her friends mourning for her. It's all about Donna.
Up yours, graduation day! Up yours! Cassie is heartbroken despite Superboy trying to comfort her. We're useless! You hear me? Useless! We're not useless. We don't know what we're doing! We never knew what we were doing! So full of ourselves! So sure! We got 2 people murdered! How? Nothing Young Justice did actually resulted in people dying. It's not even like Donna sacrificed herself to defend you or somebody else on Young Justice. Did I miss some pages? Stupid, inept children running around pretending to be heroes. You hear that, readers of Young Justice? All that character development and arcs and lessons learned by the heroes? Nah, just a bunch of inept children. Thanks for all your money! Cyborg hints that he's gonna start teaching the kids, but then that leads us to Arsenal and Nightwing. Hey, guess what Nightwing is doing? That's right, he's whining and yelling how this is all their fault and blah blah blah. And Arsenal is the one being restrained here, despite the fact that he was the one who actually had a relationship with Donna and the Titans, a crush on her since even the early days. It's not even that Dick wouldn't be emotional about this, but that Arsenal is so unemotional about it. But yeah, Dick says the Titans are finished, and thus we move into our epilogue, where Donna suddenly wakes up on some planet with 2 suns and floating mountains, finds a sword and shield, and she hears the battle raging on in the distance. Quite a significant distance, actually, considering I can't see any signs of a battle in this big open area. And so our comic ends with Donna running off into the non-existent battle. And I mean non-existent because what's actually going on here requires an explanation in a moment. This comic sucks! But of course, let's talk about what happened after this, just to really highlight how lame and awful this whole thing was. First of all, what's going on with Donna and her dreams? Well, I'd sure as hell like to know what the hell was up with those dreams, since at best it's a metaphor for what's actually happening. And even then, there's no explanation for where the dreams came from. You'll recall that in her post-Crisis on Infinite Earths origin story, Donna was rescued as a child by the Titans of Myth, trained to be one of the next generation of gods. Well, due to the events of Infinite Crisis, which I briefly talked about in the Blue Skying retrospective, the Titans of Myth were scared as all hell that the universe was going to end, and thanks to a retcon about Donna's backstory that I won't get into, she is the key to escaping this universe and going into a new one. So the Titans of Myth resurrected Donna to help them fight in an intergalactic war, and erased her memories to get her on their side. And at this point, Donna Troy losing her memory, or other people losing their memories of her, isn't a bug, it's a feature. Hell, even the New 52 version had this problem in the recent awesome Titans Hunt miniseries. At this point, we should change her superheroine name to Amnesia Woman, in order to reach a planet which had a device she alone could use to get them to safety. Now that's all outlined in, of course, The Return of Donna Troy, a 4-issue miniseries that came out 2 years after this book. It's also a pretty good book. Not great, but enjoyable if only for Donna's resurrection, and with considerably better artwork and writing, since it actually remembers who the hell these characters are, and, shock of all shocks, is told from Donna's perspective, since it's her story. So yeah, the dreams of her fighting demons, at best it's representative of her fighting in that war, except she doesn't wear anything like that string bikini she was sporting in the dream. The Return of Donna Troy is also notable because it premiered DC's logo that it had up until the New 52, the DC Spin as it was called. It's actually my favorite logo they've had. It has character, uniqueness, and the idea of motion. What I'm trying to say is that, yeah, Donna's death pissed me off, of course, but it was pretty obvious they always planned to bring her back. What irritates me is that her death ended up overshadowing Omen's, which was just pointless and mean-spirited. Omen did not get some miniseries that brought her back to life. No, she was dead up until the New 52, where she ended up as some kind of servant of harvest from the Culling. Or at least that was just someone with the name Omen, and looking exactly like her. But fortunately, the kinda sorta end of the New 52 brought her back properly. As I said before, the Titans Hunt miniseries kind of fixed things a bit. It was pretty awesome to see everyone back together, and hopefully the DC Rebirth version of this team will be pretty good. Hopefully. I'm not very enthusiastic when it comes to Brett Booth's artwork. What also followed in the wake of Graduation Day was, of course, 2 books. Teen Titans with Jeff Johns, which lasted 100 issues of varying quality. I know a lot of Young Justice fans hated it because it tended to imply that the Young Justice years were embarrassing or something, as if the idea of them having fun, and still having dramatic moments, by the way, even I know that, was something that should be hated. For me, I was irritated because it seemed to try everything possible to forget that my favorite incarnation of the Titans had ever happened. It didn't insult it, it's just it was more interested in nostalgia for the Wolfman-Perez era team, for a time. Things changed, creative teams went off, and they did their own things at times, but that was it. But oh, then there was Judd Winnick's baby that came out of this fetid, rotting, moldy bread loaf of a miniseries. Outsiders. Outsiders was okay, at best. Nowadays, it's almost quaint in how edgy it's trying to be. It followed along that old stupid idea of try to stop crime before it happens, but was far more successful in illustrating that by actually showing our heroes stopping stuff like arms shipments or getting known criminals at large or stuff like that. However, when Winnick was writing it, he was always trying to court controversy and prove how oh so mature it was. This comic features sex! Casual sex between team members. Look, an orgy! Oh, and hey, we're teaming up with John Walsh of America's Most Wanted, which at the time was decried for being 10 years too late, but honestly, apparently the show was still enjoying pretty good ratings, so make of that what you will. Oh, and that story involved Leanne getting kidnapped by human traffickers and getting a branding tattoo. So thanks for that pleasantness, Winnick! Speaking of pleasant, there was Nightwing, who only joined the team because Roy convinced him that it'll just be a job. He won't have to care about his teammates, which just meant, hey, I can keep writing him as an asshole! I'll grant Winnick this, he stuck with the book for its entire run, which just happened to be 50 issues, same as Titans. Actually, I tell a lie, 49 issues. The 50th was a setup for a relaunch of the title without Winnick. Indigo would join that team, ostensibly having been reprogrammed by Roy so that she could walk around in miniskirts and boob hole tops and have a relationship with Shift that was kinda touching. Until it was revealed in a crossover with Teen Titans that she was actually Brainiac 8 from the future and blah blah blah. What does it matter? This book is what got that all started, and it is a terrible miniseries. In the end, they didn't have to have a big thing where both teams are devastated to inspire them to start new teams. You could have had a situation where the Titans realize they need to bolster their numbers, and Young Justice deciding they're ready for some new training and skills. No one has to die. You just have to write good characters! One could say it's not as dramatically interesting to have them just decide, we can start a new team, but honestly, no one walked away from graduation day thinking, well, at least that was dramatic! Readers walked away pissed off and with a bad taste in their mouths, feeling insulted, and not really off on the right foot to start your big relaunch. People talk about the story, the characters that inspired them, and they love to read about. That's what they remember. But in this, they remembered this book was god-awful and they killed off 2 characters for no good reason and everything I liked about this setup. You've got to show respect for your characters, since that respect will carry over onto the audience. If you don't show respect for them, if you kill them, write them out of character, make them into idiots, not know who they are or their motivations, then you only send one message to readers.
They just didn't care.
Next time, from one bad miniseries to another. While I still refuse to do a full review of this book, it's time to finally talk about Marvel's event comic Civil War. And 15 things wrong with it.
That comic
Dawnstar used Rock Throw. It's super effective! Well, you know what else ruins Harvest's mystique as a cool-looking villain? His inability to shut up! We get it, asshole! Resistance is futile! You're the grand puppeteer! Blah 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 blah! Get a Twitter! You can't even say he's getting dressed again because of the fight. He wasn't injured that badly, and his clothes weren't damaged in the fight. There is no other way of interpreting this scene!
You see, they just didn't care.
You don't really care, do you?
Hello my friends, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon or purchase a t-shirt via Teespring or Shark Robot. Thanks for watching!